The man casually created a sword scabbard, yet it shocked all the hunters in the examination room. Even Yinha, one of the strongest hunters at present, immediately wanted to rush up and grab it. This scene made all the examiners unable to believe their eyes, because the sword he created was exuding an incredibly terrifying pressure. After the system's appraisal, this fire attribute scabbard had reached a super rare tier. It could both store and amplify magic power many times over. No one understood how an examinee could possess such terrifying forging skills. But little did they know, in his previous life, this man was once the strongest blacksmith. Thanks to his forging talent, he created countless divine weapons for the heroes. He then fought alongside them to kill the 6 gods of destruction. However, despite their victory, humanity still couldn't survive. Because among those 6 gods of destruction, there was one known as the Sea of Destruction. Even though he died, most of the land was still swallowed by the Sea of Death he created. Thinking of this, Cihoon couldn't help but mock himself. I barely managed to survive, yet in the end, I still have to die in this sea. The surviving heroes also fell one by one. Even the hero tower supporting the earth collapsed. This damn sea of ruins. Even though the demon god was killed, it still hasn't dissipated at all. Just then, a man behind him spoke up. Are you really planning to put on a one-man show here? Seung walked up to him. Cihoon. He frowned slightly as soon as he saw his disheveled appearance. Anyone looking at you would think you're carrying the weight of this whole world on your shoulders. The mad hound, Seung. Hearing that, Lewis turned and threw out a provocative remark in response to the mockery. Is the guy who was just lying there faking illness now trying to act like a hero? The fierce hound, Valen. Meanwhile, Amir clutched his head and groaned. Geez, I warned you guys beforehand, didn't I? The boss is just trying to enjoy the aftermath after taking command of the Legion. The ice hound, Amir. After a moment of silence, ignoring the group taking turns criticizing him, Cihoon coldly ordered, cut the crap. You guys would have been pushing up daisies a long time ago if it weren't for the gear I made for you. The last blacksmith, Cihoon. As soon as he finished speaking, Seung flew into a rage. What did you say? Lewis, on the other side, couldn't help but exclaim, this guy's words are really harsh. Amir didn't forget to turn and remind him. Boss, you're going a bit too far with that. Immediately after, he let out a curse, making the atmosphere suddenly feel suffocatingly heavy. Shut your mouths, you brats. If you don't like using them, give all the gear back to me. At that moment, only one thought lingered in Cihoon's mind. The 3 people standing before me right now are the 3 hounds. They don't stand on the side of humanity, nor do they belong to those damn demon factions. They only act according to whatever they please, always putting personal interests above all else. They are the ones who always stay out of the war to reap the benefits. Even though they are absolute scumbags to the very end, they still managed to survive until this moment. And in the end, they were the most active ones. Thinking of this, Cihoon vaguely questioned himself. If they had acted sooner, would the outcome have been better? Once again, his gaze was drawn to the sun setting at the end of the sea. Cihoon casually sat slumped on the ground. Then he glanced back. Is there anyone else who can still hold on? Hearing this, Seung clutched his stomach and dropped to his knees. He let out a dry sound. I've reached my limit. All my internal organs are crushed. Lewis looked up at the empty space. He slowly spoke. The situation over here isn't much better. It seems to be a curse. The bleeding just won't stop. On this side, Amir kept complaining, my heart's been pierced. I probably won't make it either. Seeing this, Cihoon sighed helplessly. See? You guys should have joined hands and helped from the very beginning. Even as they were dying, he still coldly scolded them. Instead of selfishly only caring about yourselves, you 3 damn dogs. Suddenly, a loud noise rang out, catching Cihoon's attention. He saw that Seung, Lewis, and Amir had collapsed. Facing that scene, he calmly stood up, letting out a soft sigh. Even at the very last moment, you're still a nuisance. Right after that, Cihoon took a step closer. He gently gripped his hammer. Cihoon raised the object into the air. His eyes were glued to the piece of metal below. After a long while, he carefully planted the daggers next to Amir's corpse. At this moment, Cihoon's voice was hoarse with anger. Learn to appreciate your gear a little. How can you even use it when it's smashed to pieces like this? He thought to himself, At least this pile can be used as tombstones for them. Finishing his task, Cihoon looked up at the endless sky. He stood silently amidst the howling sea breeze, mocking himself. So, is it my turn now? Cihoon's blood-cracked hand slowly raised. His gaze was chillingly calm. This will also be the last time I do this. Immediately, he struck hard at the center of his chest. The space trembled slightly. Glowing text floated in front of Cihoon. An emotionless voice echoed in his mind. Extracting the link from the target, Lee Cihoon. The synchronization level with the creator, Lee Cihoon, has reached a negative level. A crystal block appeared in his hand. A pale blue light glowed around the invisible ore. The cold system explained. Unique skill, link extraction. Can extract special or from a link target. The effect of the ore depends on the relationship and potential of the target. Cihoon stared at the crystal block. A thought arose in his heart. However, if I use it on myself, the thing created is even worse than an ordinary piece of iron ore. Colorless Oregon. A link ore extracted from Lee Cihoon. It is completely empty. If only I could have awakened this ability a little earlier. He looked at the faded ore in his hand, his nails digging deep, his voice whispering like a plea to the darkness. If there's nothing inside, then swallow the regret that's tormenting me. Right after that, Cihoon suddenly raised the hammer in his hand high. A rumbling sound echoed from afar. He looked up at the churning black sea. Is the sound right now the sound of the sea of death, or the sound of the waves I've been hearing all this time? But there's one thing I'm sure of. Whenever this sound vibrated in his ears, in that moment, Cihoon frantically smashed the hammer down on the object. A bold idea sparked in his mind. A masterpiece far beyond imagination will always be born. At the final moment, the hammer face struck down. A pillar of light suddenly shot straight up into the sky. He held the dagger high. His voice dropped, full of determination. Even at the very end, there's still no special ability? After saying that, Cihoon couldn't help but mock himself. I thought something good would appear, even if it's my own link stone. Like the colorless metal block in his hand, he muttered in his heart, it's still boringly monotonous. Instead, I will end this life with my own 2 hands. Right at this moment, Cihoon's facial muscles suddenly stiffened, his eyes rolling back. Then he burst out laughing. The laughter echoed distortedly amidst the sea of death, both frantic and sorrowful. I really am a madman. To think that the only thing I did until the very end was swing a forging hammer. In that moment, Cihoon's heart sank into a mess of thoughts. And when I threw away the final sword, I realized a truth. About the sound of the waves that frequently appeared since I awakened my magic power. All this time, I've always wondered what that sound meant. It turns out it was the presence of the sea of destruction. He closed his eyes. The regret weighed on him like a boulder, his lips trembling in remorse. If only I had understood that a little earlier. Or I should have convinced those 3 dogs from the start. Then Cihoon denied it. No. If I had been willing to forge for others even a little earlier, maybe everything could have turned out differently. The space around Cihoon twisted and warped. A colossal image of an ancient artifact appeared. The notification voice echoed. The spiritual image of the artifact has manifested. The skill Primal Regression Mental Imagery is being activated. Amidst the blinding light, an unfamiliar voice rang out calmly. Examine. Hey. He snapped his eyes open, breathing heavily, feeling a bit panicked inside. What? I'm not dead yet. On the opposite side, Assistant Hans stared at him blankly. Hey, Examinee Lee Cihoon. What the hell are you doing over there? Hearing that, Cihoon shuddered slightly. Examinee? It's been 31 years since I last heard that word. Then he suddenly yelled. Why are you spacing out right in the middle of the entrance exam? As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes widened. What? Cihoon looked around. Entrance exam? If it's something from 31 years ago, could this be Babel? Are these memories flashing back before I close my eyes? His eyes flashed with shock as he recalled his final moment. Wait, the mental imagery manifestation I saw right before I died. The air around Cihoon seemed to freeze, his breathing heavy. Is it a regression back to the starting point? Did that really happen because of my weapon made from the link stone? Assistant Hans said sternly, This is your final warning, Examinee Lee Cihoon. He continued, If you don't do it properly right now, I'll kick you out of here. Hearing this, he nodded instinctively. Cihoon stared at the hammer below. Regression. So that's how it is. His hand clenched slightly in the air, as if gripping an invisible hammer handle. If I had realized my granted abilities earlier and started swinging the forging hammer sooner, could I have changed the entire situation? Cihoon immediately denied it frantically. No, that's not the most important thing. His breathing slowed, his heartbeat gradually stabilizing. His whole body felt reborn in that moment of awakening. He stared at the palm of his hand. There is only one thing that truly matters right now. I absolutely must do it. That is, thinking of this, the corner of Cihoon's mouth curled up. He stood up straight in the middle of the room, his eyes burning like a forge that had just lit its first fire. His voice dropped, but echoed loudly in his mind. I must protect everything. The corner of Cihoon's mouth lifted once again, carrying the thought, in this life, I will pass the Babel exam. He gently swung the hammer high, his eyes lighting up with his thoughts. Meeting those 3 dogs is just the beginning. Then suddenly, a small flame flared up. Inchan, use me. He leaned slightly toward his forge. His eyes gleamed with surprise. That examinee. He saw Cihoon frantically smashing the hammer down on the piece of metal. Inchan immediately stepped closer, his eyes glued to his hands. Truly amazing. It looks slow, but the rhythm is perfect, with a clear and pure resonance. He carefully followed the piece of metal in Cihoon's hand, marveling inwardly. This is a peak forging skill. In that moment, Inchan stood motionless, unable to take his eyes off him. He swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on the iron bar gradually taking shape. What level of perfection is that? At the same time, Assistant Han's eyes widened in shock. He actually made that. Seeing this, Inchan smirked. A genius examinee has applied. If he just submitted that, he'd pass immediately. Just then, Cihoon slammed the hammer down hard on the piece of metal. A loud noise rang out, catching everyone's attention. Then suddenly, the piece of metal shattered into fragments. Assistant Han was practically rooted to the spot. Over here, Inchan was so shocked his eyes bulged. At Cihoon's station, he stared blankly at the burning object in his hand. Cihoon twirled the small metal block in his hand. Not too bad, but is it only this size? He pressed his lips tightly together, analyzing at the same time. Link extraction quantifies the relationship with a specific target to draw out ores that don't naturally exist. Cihoon stared at the metal block again, his gaze darkening. The problem is that the link level is still low, making it difficult to utilize right now. Looking at the stat panel appearing before his eyes, he smiled bitterly. Moreover, compared to the freshmen of Babel, my stats are truly pathetic. Cihoon looked up, then sighed helplessly. What a pity. But if I consider it the price to pay for returning to the past, it's still quite cheap. He muttered in his heart, forcing himself to calm down. Right? Don't rush. Cihoon's eyes flashed with killing intent as he thought of the future. Wanting more than this is simply greed. There's still enough time to crush those damn demons from the demon realm. The monsters from the demon realm threatened not only humanity, but the entire planet. The fact that the 6 great demon gods caused the annihilation of humanity was also entirely their plan. Cihoon stared into the void, thinking to himself, if I want to stop them, I can't be picky about the means or methods. I can't let myself be flustered by important events in the future. Therefore, I need to obtain weapons or skills related to memories first. He nodded slightly, as if confirming it to himself. The first step of the plan, enrolling in Babel, has been resolved. Next is, right at this moment, a flash of light caught Cihoon's attention. His eyes widened, clearly showing his surprise. This is... The system chimed in solemnly. The link level of user Lee Cihoon has reached level 1. The skill link imprint has been added. 1 week later, at Babel Academy. Babel Academy appeared under the early morning sun. At the same time, in the hallway of the academy, Cihoon sighed in frustration. Damn it, I'm lost again. Is this the right place? He looked around the spacious hallway, then stopped when he saw a familiar sign. Here it is. As soon as he went inside, Cihoon spoke up carefully. Good morning. Someone suddenly cut in. Student Lee Cihoon. After a moment of confusion, he transitioned into a state of shock. Michael slowly tapped the table, throwing out a sarcastic remark. You look quite relaxed, don't you? Michael raised an eyebrow, glancing toward the crowded waiting room. Don't you see everyone is waiting? Michael Bahamut, Vice Dean of the Boshipa Department. Hearing this, Incheon couldn't help but speak up. Vice Dean, there are still 10 minutes before the supplementary exam begins. He immediately cut him off. This isn't a matter of time, but of attitude. Michael's voice dropped. I will have to warn him about this. Over here, Cihoon looked a bit awkward. He sighed inwardly. Not only is the refining department in a terrible state, but he's also clashing with his superiors. Cihoon's gaze shifted to Incheon. Now I understand why he recommended another student. As he continued to look around, Han turned to look with undisguised anger. His gaze stopped at Cihoon, then scanned him from head to toe. Seeing this, he froze for a moment, his arms instinctively dropping. After a moment of hesitation, Cihoon slowly spoke. Nice to meet you. Faced with Han's disdainful attitude, he smiled awkwardly. This greenhorn brat, what the hell is he playing at? It's been a long time since I've been treated like this. How boring. Unbelievable. Right at this moment, a voice rang out, catching everyone's attention. Is everyone gathered? Right after that, a figure appeared under the glaring sunlight. Seeing this, Cihoon and Han turned around simultaneously. Over here, Michael let out a breath. We were wondering when you would arrive, Dean. At the same time, his eyes widened as soon as he saw the other person. That person is... Yinha immediately sat down, locking eyes with Cihoon. She stared at him with cold eyes, her voice low. I apologize for being late. Ryu Yinha, Dean of the Boshipa Department at Babel. As soon as he saw Yinha, Cihoon couldn't help but feel a bit bewildered. Why is this woman here? The moment he saw Yinha, Cihoon was stunned. His gaze sank as if tracing a distant memory. I heard rumors that she used to work at Babel. Thinking of this, his inner turmoil grew even more bewildered. I can't believe that person is now sitting in the dean's chair. S-rank hero, the weapon devourer Ryu Yinha. A superhuman possessing a unique ability that increases her strength by absorbing all kinds of weapons. Before I went back in time, she was originally just a regular customer who frequently visited my shop. A long time after that, Yinha appeared looking disheveled. Her voice softened, her eyes curving as if smiling, but deep down hiding an unpredictable guilt. I truly regret accidentally eating your weapon. Meanwhile, Cihoon stood motionless. He didn't respond to Yinha. Then the space fell into silence. She lowered her head. Over here, Cihoon put on an angry expression again. His teeth gritted so hard his body trembled. In the end, he could only helplessly bow his head. Returning to reality, a short but sharp call pulled him out of his thoughts. Cihoon. Hey, Cihoon. Cihoon snapped out of it. He quickly replied. Incheon spoke with a steady voice, his gaze sweeping over each examinee. I will begin explaining the contents of the exam. Everyone, pay attention. He emphasized with a stern voice, every word clear. You will have a total of 90 minutes to complete this test. Incheon paused for a moment, then continued. Within those 90 minutes, your task is to forge a piece of equipment that can resonate with the sword from the previous exam. Incheon suddenly stopped for a few seconds, creating a heavy silence. However, his voice grew colder, each word ringing out clearly like an order. You are only allowed to use alchemy forging techniques to craft it. Incheon slightly tilted his head toward the sparkling shelves of ore. As for the materials, he lowered his voice. You are free to choose any type of, or available here. Incheon's voice deepened. His gaze swept over the two examiners with respect. The finished products will be personally evaluated by Dean Ryu Yinha and Vice Dean Bahamut. So pour all your heart into creating something you can be proud of. Right after that, he lowered his hand, his voice ringing out like an opening bell. All right. Standing before Cihoon and Han, Incheon shouted, the exam officially begins. After a long while, he muttered softly in his throat. Only allowed to use alchemy forging? Cihoon pursed his lips for a moment, his eyes glued to the pile of materials. I need to create resonance using pure magic to prevent the primal spiritual energy from going berserk. Seeing this, Han let out a faint laugh. Do you think staring at that pile of, or will magically increase your mana? He slowly looked up, his eyes growing a few degrees colder. Did I hear that right? Cihoon asked curiously. Were you just targeting me with sarcasm? He smirked again. Who else is around here besides us? Just then, Incheon's voice rang out coldly. Han Bahamut. He raised his voice in warning. Please refrain from making remarks unrelated to the exam. Hearing this, he bowed his head slightly. I will be more careful. Cihoon was momentarily stunned. Han Bahamut? What the hell? Turns out this guy is the examiner's son. Michael Bahamut. Han Bahamut. Thinking of this, he flashed a cheeky smile. No wonder they look so much alike. Cihoon turned to look at him with a hostile attitude. The more I think about it, the more ridiculous this is. Seeing this, Han thought to himself, it seems that guy has realized it. He smirked, laughing disdainfully. The fact that I am the precious son of the vice dean. You are just a commoner with a lowly background and the weakest mana among the examinees. And I, born into the illustrious Bahamut family renowned for alchemy forging, possess magical power that can rival the top student of the second-year system. The outcome of this confrontation was already decided from the start. Over here, Yinha's eyes followed their every move. She smiled faintly. Lapis lazuli and Hainan jade. Both of these are materials containing a massive reserve of mana. Furthermore, they are primal ores carrying water attribute spiritual energy. Hearing this, Inchan continued in a low voice. Water attribute mana is highly averse to fire, making forging them extremely difficult. Michael smirked. That's in the past. Modern alchemy forging techniques have advanced far beyond the past. Faced with his arrogant expression, Inchan interjected. It's true that alchemy forging isn't restricted by space or circumstances, but the crafting time varies depending on the caster and the type of ore. So under today's conditions, it will only take 30 minutes. Meanwhile, Michael continued to smile, a sinister smile that was chilling. He lowered his voice. Han has the ability to synthesize any type of ore within half an hour. A few days ago, Han had spun the crystal block using spiritual energy. Inchan couldn't help but feel a bit bewildered. Completing resonance synthesis in just 30 minutes? He instinctively shuddered. What? If his skill level has reached the point of completing resonance synthesis in 30 minutes, then he has far surpassed the second-year students, let alone the freshmen. Inchan's gaze swept over him with growing suspicion. So that's how it is. Squeezing the time to forge magic stones, preparing an abundant source of materials, and imposing the alchemy forging method. They deliberately chose an exam topic that gives Han an absolute advantage. A guy who was already excellent at alchemy forging to begin with. Inchan's gaze stopped on his face. Michael, as cunning as a poisonous snake. After a moment of silence, Cihoon exhaled softly. This is fine. Yinha looked at him curiously. She couldn't help but feel a bit surprised. That thing is. The group's eyes were glued to him. Hydrate stone and crimson fire stone? Michael frowned slightly, clearly sensing the unstable fluctuations from the two mineral blocks. Those are the fire attribute versions of lapis lazuli and Hainan jade, with sky-high mana concentrations. He coldly remarked, I don't know how talented he is, but his ego is certainly massive. Over here, Han instinctively rolled his eyes towards Cihoon. He narrowed his eyes at Cihoon's pile of materials. Did he deliberately choose, or is that completely contrast with my materials? Thinking of this, Han chuckled softly. What an idiot. With your meager mana, don't even dream of controlling the crimson fire stone. He smiled faintly, his gaze lowering. This looks like it'll be even easier than I thought. Then suddenly, Han's gaze changed, returning to Cihoon. The system announced, the skill contract imprint has been activated. The system's sound echoed dryly. Magical light surrounded his body. Contract imprint. Harmony is active. Contract imprint allows the user to attach contract stones to utilize available equipment slots. Left hand, right hand. Equipping iron fire silver to the right arm. Right after that, a flame slowly fell straight down. After a moment of silence, his lips twitched slightly. Although I still have a long way to go, showing off garbage like this. He stopped the hammer in midair, his eyes turning cold. Is something I absolutely cannot accept as a blacksmith. Witnessing that scene, Assistant Han screamed frantically. Did you just destroy a weapon in front of the professors? Do you think forging is a joke? Cihoon calmly called out. Examiner. Under Inchan's bewildered gaze, he casually made a request. I want to redo the exam. Hearing that, he screamed again. Hey, you examinee. He cut in, interrupting Assistant Han. Inchan crossed his arms, giving a short but forceful order. Bring the remaining materials to him. Assistant Han couldn't help but be surprised, stammering, "Yes, sir." He raised an eyebrow slightly, giving him a sharp look. He didn't actually violate the rules, did he? Or do you want me to go get them myself? Not daring to argue back, Assistant Han hurriedly replied, "I'll bring the materials over right away." Inchan stepped closer to the forge, looking straight into Cihoon's eyes. His voice was warm, but full of pressure. "Young man," he strictly reminded him, "do you know that there are only 40 minutes left in the exam?" He just nodded. Inchan stared at the shattered pieces. He asked curiously, "Do you think smashing it was the right decision?" Hearing this, Cihoon's eyes quickly darted toward the destroyed metal blocks. Finally, he turned to look at Inchan with an unwavering gaze. "I couldn't submit something like that." Over here, he tilted his head slightly, his eyes flashing with thought. Then he slowly spoke, "All right, do your best." After a long while, Cihoon's eyes once again shone with the fire of determination. He took a deep breath, feeling this young but weak body, telling himself nervously, "With this body, perfect forging is indeed very difficult." Thinking of this, Cihoon frowned slightly. Mana, strength, and even time are running out. Then the best choice in this situation is... Suddenly, a fierce, sizzling sound echoed from the forge. A few examinees startled and turned around. "What's that noise?" Someone panicked and shouted. "Is that bastard pumping mana into the ignition stones?" Someone rushed forward half a step, yelling, "Hey, what the hell are you doing? If those stones catch fire, they'll explode. Hurry up and..." Meanwhile, Cihoon calmly reached out to activate the flame. The whole room fell dead silent as the five-colored flame blazed fiercely without exploding. Someone exclaimed, "Impossible! This madman!" Right at this moment, an invisible surge of mana suddenly rushed straight into his body. Faced with the terrifying scene, a few people panicked and shouted, "Fire! Bring the fire extinguishers over here. Hurry!" Assistant Han pleaded with a trembling voice, "Professor, please tell him to stop." Inchan just replied dismissively, "Let him be. Let alone the examinees. Even you shouldn't react like that." Saying this, he gestured seriously, observed the flow of the flame carefully. He couldn't help but feel a bit bewildered. Yes, right in front of Cihoon was the five-color fire demon, a high-temperature flame amplified by the resonance of 5 ignition stones. He smirked, his eyes never leaving the flame. It requires extremely precise mana control. But this is an excellent technique, one that can even be used when mana is at a minimum. An examinee stammered, unable to believe his eyes. What? It didn't explode? Another person hesitantly spoke up. "Wait a minute. Could that be?" Someone pointed at the iron bar in the forge, shouting in amazement. "The color of the iron bar has changed." Witnessing that scene, Inchan quickly understood. So that's how it is. He resonated the ignition stones to enhance the firepower and alter the properties of the iron bar. He cast a concerned look towards Cihoon. This will significantly shorten the time needed to forge. However, with only 30 minutes left, time is still very tight. Thinking of this, Inchan affirmed inwardly, his forging earlier was also excellent. But if that's all he has, he won't be able to finish in time. Sharp metal fragments were seen shooting up into the air. Seeing this, he smirked, his eyes flashing with a rare gleam. Right after that, Cihoon gripped the object tightly with his bare hands. Then he slowly placed it inside the forge. Cihoon was seen panting, exhaling difficult breaths. A moment later, he continued to smash the hammer hard against the piece of metal. Suddenly, Cihoon's arm stopped in midair. Seeing this, he gritted his teeth, feeling his mana completely drained. He muttered, "Damn it, I'm out of mana, and the protective layer has shattered. This damn weak body. I need to start training as soon as this exam is over." Even so, at some point, the palm of Cihoon's hand had started bleeding. Fresh blood slowly spread across his entire palm. In that moment, he only had one thought. "I can't waste even a single second." Right after that, Cihoon frantically smashed the hammer down once again. He made a silent decision. Push the body to its limits. Right at this moment, Inchan's voice rang out. 10 minutes left. 3 minutes. At the final minute, he shouted with a voice that shook the entire room. As soon as the sound faded, Cihoon immediately raised the sword in his hand high. Inchan shouted once again, "Stop!" Hearing this, he parted his lips and exhaled. At this moment, Cihoon clenched his hand tightly beneath the table. Fresh blood continuously dripped down. At the same time, the system's bright screen flashed. Completion. The weapon 5-color fire sword has been completed. You have acquired the skill Flame Artisan C. The notification continued to echo in the air. Judgment result. The grade of the 5-color fire sword is high. 5-color fire sword. Grade. High quality. Mid-high. A curved sword engraved with 5 flames. The flames compressed within the blade react with mana, creating vibrant colors. This item reveals the potential of the blacksmith who created it. The color and properties of the sword can change slightly depending on the nature of the mana infused into it. Someone repeated with a trembling voice, "The weapon's grade is high." Cihoon added, "I hope you will check the detailed description in the information window. Anyone can clearly see that's a passing result." Assistant Han jumped up in excitement, his voice almost a shout amidst the bursting atmosphere. He passed. Inchan immediately waved his hand, signaling, "Quiet down right now, you brat." He immediately lowered his voice. "I'm sorry." The scene shifted to a room. It was Professor Kim Inchan's office. Inside, he glanced back anxiously. Cihoon sat up straight in front of the desk. He asked with an unwavering gaze, "Is this a sword worthy of submission this time?" Inchan stayed silent for a moment, then replied, "For the time being, yes." He parted his lips and exhaled. "You still don't look very satisfied." "Li Cihoon, I'll be blunt." Inchan spoke with a heavy voice, as if carrying the weight of an era. "This place won't be able to meet your standards." He emphasized every single word. "It would be best for you to withdraw your application." Inchan continued in a low tone. "Babel's reputation may be overwhelming. However, the alchemy department has not produced any notable achievements anymore." Over here, Cihoon remained silent, not responding. He narrowed his eyes at him. "That is a truth I know very well. Babel's alchemy department will close down in the next 8 years due to declining standards. In the future, Vulcan Academy will become the best blacksmith training academy in the world." After a moment of hesitation, Inchan hesitantly suggested, "Perhaps, in the future, Vulcan will be the best place." Hearing this, Cihoon interjected, "You are wrong, Professor. The best place won't be Vulcan." He pointed straight at himself with confident eyes. "It will be Babel, the place I am about to enroll in." In that moment, Cihoon declared loudly, "Professor, you are mistaken." He looked straight at Inchan without wavering. "The best place won't be Vulcan. It will be Babel, the place I am about to enroll in." Hearing this, he was momentarily startled, his eyes clearly wavering. Inchan stared at Cihoon with a mix of doubt and amazement, clearly visible. Inchan narrowed his eyes, his sharp gaze scrutinizing him. His voice was slow and challenging. "In that case, you need to become the top student of the department first. Are you confident?" He answered without hesitation, "Of course. At least at the student level, no one will be better than me." As soon as he finished speaking, Inchan's expression changed. He interrogated sternly, "Do you know the process for selecting the top freshman of the department at Babel?" Receiving the question, Cihoon quickly recited the information exactly like a machine. They will select a candidate for the top student of the department through a supplementary exam between the top 2 students of the department. And from those candidates, the one who will become the top student is determined. That is what I know. Babel Academy broadly divides its students into 3 departments. Combat Department, Agaquif. Support Department, UR. Technology Department, Oshipa. Within each department, dozens of majors intertwine like roots. And becoming the top student of the department means you have received the most excellent evaluation among those countless majors and are recognized by all of Babel as a top-tier talent. Returning to reality, Inchan clearly showed his tension. His arms were clenched so tightly they trembled. Inchan turned back, looking straight at Cihoon. His voice dropped, full of sincerity. "I will say it again, not as a professor, but as a senior blacksmith." He continued in a dejected tone. "Even if you become the top student of the department, it will be hard to expect success as a blacksmith in this place. Go to Vulcan Academy." Inchan nodded slightly as if he had decided for him. "That is the path meant for you." Cihoon looked at the man in front of him with rare respect. He thought to himself, putting the future of a junior above his own position. He truly is a decent person. After a moment of silence, he affirmed once again, the environment doesn't matter. Like I just said. His eyes lit up, his voice echoing enthusiastically. Babel, the place I am about to enroll in, will soon become the best place. Incheon was momentarily bewildered. The place where he will become the best. Finally, the corner of his mouth lifted, revealing his interest. Incheon couldn't help but chuckle while reaching out his hand towards Cihoon. That is a declaration far beyond arrogance. But for some reason, I don't hate it. He reached out his hand, looking at him with sincere eyes. I look forward to working with you. Seeing this, Cihoon gripped Incheon's hand without hesitation. He squeezed his hand firmly. The corner of his mouth lifted. Me too. Sparkling text immediately appeared right in front of him. A link with the target Kim Incheon has been established. The link with the creator Lee Si-hoon is currently at level 1. Extracting link from the target Kim Incheon. Si-hoon clenched his wrist tightly. An object hovered right in the center of his palm. A metal block appeared, fire smoldering inside as the system described. Link, fire-bearing iron. Grade, high quality. Mid-low, a type of metal that possesses fire. It has properties similar to wood and can store fire inside. Si-hoon's arm was seen engulfed in flames. Witnessing that scene, Han gritted his teeth. That guy. What kind of useless parlor tricks is he using? Meanwhile, he remained focused on activating the metal blocks. At this moment, the iron ores began to revolve around each other. Seeing this, Si-hoon smirked, his eyes flashing with a blazing spark. At the same time, Yinha's group was still staring at him. Over here, Michael raised an eyebrow slightly. Is he planning to create resonance by using the same attribute as the minerals? How foolish. The basic principle is to use pure mana to make primal ores resonate with each other. He silently made a judgment. If he forces it like that, sooner or later the magic elements will explode out of control. Thinking of this, Michael smirked, laughing disdainfully. Idiot. He's definitely about to cause an accident. Then suddenly, Si-hoon swung his arm forward. His arm was seen covered in a layer of scales. The whole space fell into silence. Si-hoon maintained his posture. Witnessing that scene, Incheon and Yinha hurriedly bowed their heads. Meanwhile, Michael's eyes widened. What is this terrifying firepower? In that moment, a sword was formed. As soon as he saw it, Si-hoon's lips twitched. The system's voice immediately reached his ears. Iron Fire Silver unequipped. Equipment processing complete. Congratulations, you have successfully crafted the equipment, Fire Storing Scabbard. Faced with the shocking scene, Yunha's eyes widened in amazement. Michael was so shocked his whole body froze. He couldn't help but feel a bit bewildered. Impossible. Did he really succeed? The system screen immediately flashed. Equipment, Fire Storing Scabbard. Fire Storing Scabbard. Grade, Rare. Quality. A scabbard imbued with a high concentration of fire attribute mana. Capable of storing and amplifying fire attribute spiritual energy. Allows the casting of the special skill Conflagration. At the same time, cold sweat rolled down Han's temples. He's already finished the synthesis process? What is that speed? He stared blankly at his palm, his inner self screaming frantically. This is completely absurd. The magic elements should have exploded. Thinking of this, Han's heart grew even more chaotic. Or did I misunderstand something? Right at this moment, Michael startled. He hurriedly shouted, "Wait! Stop right now. If you dare to infuse primal spiritual energy into those magic stones." The sphere in Han's hand began to vibrate violently. His vision was suddenly obscured by the intense heat. Right after that, the sphere suddenly exploded. Fragments flew everywhere. A loud explosion rang out, the whole space shaking repeatedly. That afternoon, at the refining department's examination hall, the scene shifted to the room, where crystal fragments lay scattered on the floor. Over here, Han appeared with a scratched face. After a moment of silence, Incheon hesitantly spoke up. Normally, after undergoing a thorough appraisal process. He paused for a moment, gritting his teeth as if trying to swallow down his unconcealable frustration. One of the two would be nominated for the position of top student of the department. Saying this, Incheon looked up straight at Han. However, what happened is truly unfortunate. In that moment, he shrank back, his hand tightly gripping his bleeding arm. His gaze stopped on Han. Then he continued, To think the exam would end with one side having to forfeit. At the same time, Michael gritted his teeth slightly. Despite his frustration, he tried to keep his voice calm. Since a student suffered an injury during the exam, the best course of action right now is to cancel the results and schedule another retake date. Hearing this, Inchan spun around. He seriously objected. We do not have the right to dismiss the results of an exam that has already been taken. After all, didn't that accident stem from student Han's carelessness? He tilted his head, his gaze sharp as a knife sweeping straight toward Inchan, his voice chilling to the bone. Professor Kim, it seems you care more about scores than the safety of your student. As soon as he finished speaking, he fell silent, his eyes flashing with anger. At this moment, Michael stood up. He leisurely continued. Let's put that aside for a moment. Michael took slow steps to the center of the hall. His gaze drilled straight into Cihoon as if wanting to strip away his secrets. The fastest resonance speed ever recorded in the academic world is 5 minutes. Yet, saying this, he raised his voice, almost shouting. A freshman who just set foot in the academy can channel mana and achieve instant resonance? Do you people find this even slightly plausible? The original nature of the alchemy forging method is a technique created to craft weapons using only mana in situations where conventional forging is impossible. Therefore, the core of alchemy forging is not the traditional forging method aimed at subduing the or with the blacksmith's life, but tracing back to the origin of the mineral core and awakening the latent vitality within it. That is the true essence of alchemy forging. In that moment, Cihoon only had one thought. What I just did is the proof of that. And this is also the answer the blacksmithing world will soon find after countless trials and errors. This is a simple method that will soon become the standard in a few years, so I have no reason to hide it. But I also don't have the free time to teach a conservative old man who only knows how to yell and won't listen. Finally, he coldly spoke up. I really don't understand what the hell you're babbling about. Hearing this, the corner of Michael's mouth lifted. Just as I predicted. You used cheating tricks. He smiled faintly, a disdainful and venomous smile. A rookie with no background forging a rare-grade equipment? If you intended to scam us, you should have at least done something that makes sense. Cihoon frowned, his eyes darkening from the insult, but his voice remained restrained. What are you talking about? Right at this moment, Yinha cut into the tense conversation. He's right. This is truly absurd. Michael bowed his head very low, but the corners of his lips curled up calculatingly. I knew it. You will certainly understand this matter, Dean. Indeed, this is utterly ridiculous. We need to disqualify Lee Cihoon for fraudulent behavior and hold a retake. Meanwhile, she casually walked past him. Yinha stopped in front of his sword. Inchan stared at her blankly. Dean. At this moment, Yinha carefully grasped the sword. A whisper escaped her lips. Unbelievable. Drool was seen dripping from Yinha's mouth. Then she suddenly pointed at Cihoon. Student Lee Cihoon. Yinha unexpectedly made a request, her eyes shining brightly like a child discovering a treasure. Can I take a bite? No, just one lick. Can I taste it just once? As soon as she finished speaking, Michael was practically rooted to the spot, his eyes flashing with bewilderment. Meanwhile, Inchan stared blankly at her. Taste it. Suddenly, a grumbling sound echoed from inside Yinha's stomach. Hearing that, the whole group almost froze. Late that afternoon, at the city center. What the? At this moment, Cihoon leisurely left the academy. He stood under the blazing red sunset, a thought rising in his heart. As expected, the final tuning is still quite amateurish. The level of completion hasn't reached the ultimate state yet. Thinking of this, Cihoon tried to reassure himself. Even so, he chuckled softly, his hair swaying in the evening breeze, his face clearly showing an unconcealable satisfaction. Getting to see Vice Dean Bahamut trembling with anger was totally worth it. A passerby looked at Cihoon with fearful eyes, whispering to their friend, "He looks really creepy smiling like that." The friend hurriedly urged, "That person is weird. Don't look them in the eye. Just ignore them and keep walking." Returning to Cihoon, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. Wait, now that I think about it. Bahamut. That name sounds very familiar, but I can't remember where I've met him. Then Cihoon frantically slapped his forehead, constantly muttering, Bahamut, Bahamut, Bahamut. An image from his previous life suddenly reappeared. Lewis whispered with an angry voice. Back when I was at Babel, the cheap weapons I bought after doing heavy manual labor under that bastard's orders suddenly exploded. Then he suddenly shouted, his tone filled with resentment. That's exactly why I suffered mana burns and ended up in this miserable state. Damn it, if it wasn't for that guy. On the opposite side, Cihoon just looked at Lewis with cold eyes. Returning to reality, his footsteps stopped. A horrifying thought flashed through Cihoon's mind. The name of the blacksmith who permanently crippled the fierce hound, Louis Vallon, was Bahamut. Could Han Bahamut be that person? Thinking of this, he frowned slightly. My top priority in this life is to quickly approach and reform the 3 hounds. But with the fierce hound, maybe that's no longer necessary. Then Cihoon smirked coldly, his eyes turning sinister. A thought flashed through his mind. Because as long as I stop Han Bahamut from running rampant, Lewis will never go down the wrong path. In a flash, the scene shifted to the refining department's classroom. Inside, an angry shout rang out. Are you planning to let student Lee Cihoon become the top student of our department? A representative spoke up, his voice slow but harboring doubt. The professors from other departments are speaking up. Are you serious about this decision? The person next to him hesitated slightly. Even if you have that intention, this is a bit too much. Yinha slowly placed both hands on the table, her calm gaze sweeping over each face. Her voice was deep but resonant. Does anyone here have an objection? An elderly professor shook his head slightly, his eyes showing a hint of reservation, his voice carrying a tone of compromise. Not exactly. Rather than an objection, Michael cut in. This is more like sincere advice. He leisurely continued. Anyway, Dean, you have only recently taken office. Hearing this, Yinha's eyes immediately changed. It was undisguised anger. Another person chimed in. That's right. We admit his equipment is very impressive, but perhaps we need to review it more carefully. Incheon immediately cut in. You professors are saying that because you haven't seen Lee Cihoon's fire-storing scabbard with your own eyes. Although the craftsmanship might be rough, if you look at how the mana is channeled and its compatibility with the 5-color fire sword, one of them couldn't help but marvel. It is indeed amazing. But to be honest, I still have doubts about its practicality. At the same time, Yinha spoke up again. This weapon has probably only reached less than 60% of the completion level Lee Cihoon expected, and that very flaw shows its immense potential. She didn't forget to emphasize every single word. If after witnessing, the atmosphere in the room seemed to freeze as Yinha slowly continued, each word dropping as heavy as a sledgehammer. The upcoming performance of top student Lee Cihoon, you still cannot accept my decision. Right after that, she declared loudly, I will immediately resign from my position as dean. In the middle of the giant square, Lewis's voice echoed from the sound-amplifying magic, ringing out solemnly like an ancient oath. 54 years ago, the heavens bestowed the hero tower for the evolution of humanity. The atmosphere suddenly grew heavy as an illusion recreated the tearing sky. His voice turned heavier. In response to that, hell unleashed the swamp of chaos, which rots all life. While we found new opportunities to pursue, a colossal disaster also struck. Standing in the center of the grand hall, Lewis lectured seriously, his tone incredibly eloquent. Babel was also formed within that very turbulent current. This is the largest academy in history, built right in the heart of the Pacific Ocean. Up until now, Babel has trained countless outstanding heroes. Saying this, he formally announced the name. A prime example is the Ascended Emperor, Lord Louis Super. And then, you too will become a part of them. Lewis's voice gradually became earnest. Step forward. For all those who have set foot in this Babel Academy. His voice suddenly soared, solemn and sacred like an oath on the battlefield. That is the noble mission of a hero. The person who just spoke was the Ascended Emperor, Louis Super. Cihoon stood silently among the crowd, quietly observing Louis on the podium. He whispered to himself calculatingly. Observing him directly like this, he looks like a very decent person. Although in reality, he's not exactly a purely kind old man. The MC stepped forward, raising the microphone high. Next, we will move on to the performance of the most outstanding top students of this year's entrance exam. I invite the top students of the departments to step onto the podium. Receiving the invitation, the group of male and female students stepped onto the podium one by one. Cihoon watched the proud figures step up, his gaze sinking as memories of his past life flashed by. Top student of the department, huh? In my previous life, I used to wonder why so many people were so arrogant just because they had good grades at the academy. Right at this moment, the MC shouted, "Then right now, we will begin the skill performance." He looked around, a forced smile appearing on his lips. Seeing this scene, it seems I've understood the problem. At the same time, the MC raised his voice. The sample object used for today's performance is none other than this masterpiece, ladies and gentlemen. As soon as he finished speaking, automaton model number 9 appeared. As soon as he saw it, he excitedly introduced it. A golem straight from the factory. Automaton model number 9. It even possesses combat capabilities equivalent to a C-rank hero. Over here, Cihoon's eyes were glued to automaton model number 9. He chuckled with interest. A combat-specialized automaton. Since it's not equipped with any specific weapons, it'll probably use martial arts, right? The MC reached out toward the entrance of the arena. The first to open the show is the representative from the combat department. His voice rang out dramatically. The performance will be executed by the top student of Agaquiv, student Zeke Meyer. Top student of Agaquiv, Zeke. Right after that, Zeke and automaton model number 9 appeared on the podium. Cihoon narrowed his eyes, observing the dark-haired youth stepping out. If it's Zeke, I think he's the third son of the Meyer family. Rumor has it he's an eccentric for pursuing martial arts despite being born into a family famous for swordsmanship. It seems that rumor is true. Just then, the MC shouted loudly. Then, we will immediately. On the opposite side, the automaton's eyes lit up. That was also the moment he signaled. Begin the first match right now. As soon as he finished speaking, it pivoted sharply on the ground. The automaton was seen rushing toward Zeke like a tornado. Immediately, it threw a punch. Zeke instantly twisted his body to dodge. Meanwhile, the automaton frantically swung its fists at him. A moment later, Zeke leaped down, his toes scraping against the ground. He looked up at it. It's my turn to show off. Saying that, Zeke charged straight at the automaton without hesitation. He was seen clenching his fist. Immediately, Zeke punched straight into its body. Witnessing that scene, the crowd of students was practically rooted to the spot. Over here, Zeke was still frantically attacking the automaton. Cihoon's eyes widened as he witnessed that terrifying burst of speed. What is this? I clearly remember he died early while at A rank in his mid-20s. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a bit bewildered. With this level of skill, he should be a once-in-a-decade genius at Babel. Cihoon whispered in his heart, full of doubt. Why did he only stop at A rank in my previous life? Returning to Zeke, he smirked coldly. With just this much. At the final minute, he swung his arm to end the battle with the automaton. Its head was seen flying into the air and then falling to the ground. Zeke pulled his fist back, standing straight amidst the fading dust. He exhaled softly. It's been a long time since I've been able to exercise this freely. The MC's voice trembled slightly. Truly. Then he almost shouted in excitement. An incredibly eye-catching and wonderful performance. Student Zeke. He took down an automaton with the strength of a C-rank hero in just one breath. The MC turned back to Zeke. He couldn't help but marvel. Truly the caliber of the top student from the Agaquiv house. Over here, Cihoon frowned slightly, thinking to himself. He really created a huge explosion right from the start. The next person will definitely be under no small amount of pressure. The voice calling out names rang out again, this time carrying a completely different tone, calmer and more majestic. Next on the program, please welcome the top student of the support department, you are. The person executing the performance will be student Erica Eno. He raised an eyebrow slightly as he watched the long-haired girl step out. So she's the top student of UR. Pressure? There's no need to worry about that at all. Erica, the eldest daughter of the Eno family, one of the 3 most illustrious lineages in Japan. She wasn't a conqueror of the peak, but she built a reputation as an S-rank hero with a mythical grade weapon. However, in the end, she was corrupted into a demon and killed by her own family members. At this moment, Cihoon made a silent decision in his mind. Since she will be eroded into a demon in the future, there's no benefit in befriending her. Then suddenly, Erica turned to look at him. Seeing this, Cihoon froze for a moment, staring at her blankly. He naively watched Erica's footsteps, his mind a tangled mess. What the? Did she just look at me? At the same time, the MC announced sternly, the automaton used for this performance is model number 9 equipped with armor, boasting defense 1.5 times superior to the previous version. He excitedly shouted, shaking the entire space. Let's wait and see what surprise student Eno will bring us. Then suddenly, Erica brought out a crow. Her eyes suddenly flared with a sinister light like a demon. She muttered the command, advance. As soon as she finished speaking, the crow immediately flew straight out. It was seen soaring into the air and circling the automaton. Faced with the unexpected scene, Cihoon was momentarily bewildered. A crow. At the same time, the automaton looked up, following it. Its eyes suddenly flashed with an eerie red light. Over here, he intently observed the automaton, evaluating it inwardly. The automaton has switched to a full defensive state. It will be very difficult to pierce through such a solid protective layer, especially since it belongs to a defense-specialized line. Returning to Erica, her lips twitched slightly. Suddenly, the crow spread its wings. Its legs spread out, revealing sharp claws. One of the crow's eyes also flashed with a blue light. Under the sun, it spread its wings. Then suddenly, the crow accelerated, diving straight down toward the automaton. Below, the whole area fell into chaos. Dust and dirt flew everywhere. Witnessing that scene, Cihoon was almost stunned. Over here, cracks had appeared on the automaton's body. Electricity immediately surged out. At some point, a hole had appeared in its body. Immediately, the automaton's body collapsed to the ground. Seeing this, Erica beckoned, and the crow immediately returned. The MC cheered once again. Amazing. Truly extraordinary. With just a single strike, the armored automaton collapsed. She pierced through an opponent with C-rank strength. The crowd cheered happily. Erica is so good. Returning to Cihoon, he smiled awkwardly. With such a boiling atmosphere, I have a feeling I'll be booed if I just bring out a weapon to show off, and then end it. Right at this moment, the MC shouted. And finally, the top student of the technology department, Boshipa, please welcome student Lee Cihoon. Right now, the MC enthusiastically introduced. Continuing the program, we will begin the performance of the top student of the Boshipa Technology Department, student Lee Cihoon. In another development, performance supervisor number 1, Lewis, was watching the battle through a screen. He couldn't help but chuckle softly. The skill level of the new top students this time is truly impressive. How long has it been since we've seen a top student from the refining department? Saying this, Lewis couldn't help but feel a bit worried. Will the pressure be too great for that young man? Beside him was performance supervisor number 2, Dean Yinha. She affirmed firmly, there won't be any problems whatsoever. The stands buzzed as Cihoon stepped into the light. The MC smiled meaningfully. Will he bring a performance that surpasses the explosive displays of Zeke and Erica just now? Someone couldn't help but marvel. He's so handsome. The MC suddenly grew curious. A rare grade equipment? That's a rare sight in the refining department. Female students cheered excitedly. He's so cool. Freshman. At the same time, Cihoon decisively drew the sword from its scabbard. He swung the sword forcefully to the side. His eyes were glued to the opponent. In that moment, the image of the sword appeared right behind Cihoon, along with countless functions. A male student spoke up, his eyes half admiring, half skeptical. That's right. It's truly miraculous for a freshman to craft a rare grade item. The person next to him hesitated slightly. However, compared to the other departments, it seems to lack a breakthrough. Whispers spread as a few students showed disappointment. A rare grade item, but it looks a bit plain, doesn't it? Anyway, the previous departments already showed off too flashily. The male student couldn't help but feel a bit bewildered. I'm not sure what he intends to show in this performance either. I really want to know. In a corner of the stands, Michael smirked slightly, his eyes sparkling with ambition. Heaven's will is on my side. He stared at Cihoon with sinister eyes. At this rate, the dean's seat of Boshipa will definitely be mine. In contrast to Michael, Yinha's face was as calm as the ocean at night. Returning to the stands, the MC quickly announced, for this performance, model number 10, with strength equivalent to a D-rank hero. He suddenly cut in. Cihoon looked up, his eyes flashing like a blade drawn from its sheath, his words silencing the entire square. Please change it to model number 8. And please equip it with extra armor. The MC almost dropped the list in his hand, stammering in astonishment. What is he asking for? Model number 8 can sometimes withstand an attack from a B-rank hero, and he's demanding it wear extra armor on top of that. He hesitated slightly. The MC hesitantly continued. It's difficult to prepare that request immediately like this. He thought to himself, are you trying to ruin this performance? Right at this moment, Inchan spoke up. I have already taken care of everything beforehand. A metallic entity suddenly appeared following his voice. He looked up at the automaton. This automaton is now fully armored. Seeing this, the MC was momentarily stunned. He already prepared it? He looked around anxiously, his tone hesitant. If you are that determined. At the same time, Cihoon turned to look at Inchan. He remained silent, his expectant gaze directed at him. From the VIP stands, the MC shouted excitedly. Then just go all out. He smiled awkwardly. Anyway, the match. I don't know what's going to happen either. Right after that, the MC shouted, begin. As soon as the bell for the battle rang, Inchan immediately tensed up. In that moment, he silently called out. Just go crazy. Cihoon smirked. All right. He glanced toward the stands where Inchan was watching, a hint of a smile in his eyes. I should live up to his expectations a little, shouldn't I? The sword in his hand was seen radiating intense spiritual energy. Cihoon gently bent down, and the energy immediately coiled into a circle. Witnessing that scene, Zeke cheered in excitement. That's insane. At the same time, Han smirked disdainfully. All flash and no substance. What can a guy lacking mana possibly accomplish? The fire energies within the 5-color fire sword inherently conflict with each other. This explosion could cause disaster for the user if not controlled by a massive amount of mana. However, by utilizing the fire-storing capability of the fire-storing scabbard, and the technique of infusing crimson fire inside. At this moment, Cihoon parted his lips and muttered, the energy charging process is complete. On the opposite side, the automaton had activated its shield. Meanwhile, he had swung the sword forcefully, activating the flame. The move just executed made the entire stand sway. A thought formed in Cihoon's mind. If I activate conflagration right now, the fire spirits compressed inside will. His eyes were glued to the automaton's protective shield. Cihoon muttered in the decisive moment. Explode simultaneously. On the stands, Michael's face turned pale, seemingly realizing something was wrong. The MC's jaw dropped in shock. What is this madman planning to do? After a long while, the thick layer of dust gradually dispersed. Cihoon slowly sheathed the sword in his hand. Then he parted his lips, exhaling rapid breaths. Finishing his task, Cihoon directed his gaze along the cut mark on the field. Looks like I went a bit overboard, didn't I? Realizing the critical situation, the MC appeared urgent. Technical support team, please report to the central hall immediately. He hurriedly declared. With that performance, the competition has concluded. After a long while, the sound of high heels echoed throughout the grand hall. Inside, Cihoon put on a flustered expression. As soon as she saw him, Yinha bowed slightly. I'm very sorry for making you wait after calling you here. I was just helping clean up the mess at the arena. Cihoon scratched his head awkwardly. Please don't mind it. I'm the one who should be apologizing. I'm very sorry for causing that scene in the central hall. He suddenly lowered his voice. I should have controlled my power a bit better. She was momentarily bewildered. What are you talking about, student Cihoon? He asked back in confusion. Did you think I called you here to scold you? Yinha immediately denied it. Of course not. The real reason I invited you here is. Just then, her stomach growled loudly again. The strange noise made Cihoon freeze in place. Yinha coughed lightly to hide her embarrassment. Finally, she made an offer. I am willing to pay 10 times the market price. Yinha looked straight at him with determined eyes. Would you agree to sell the 5-color fire sword and the fire-storing scabbard to me? Hearing this, Cihoon's eyes widened for a moment. What? In that exact moment, the link with Yinha was established. Yinha suddenly leaned forward. She spoke in a coaxing tone. That really is a wonderful set of equipment. Suddenly, the system screen lit up right in front of Cihoon. The contract with the target Yinha has been established. The contract level with the creator Cihoon is currently at level 1. His eyes widened, his pupils trembling slightly in surprise. So fast. In my previous life, I had to offer weapons to her many times before this link was formed. Cihoon replied awkwardly. Thank you, Dean. He silently reassured himself. Anyway, this is a stroke of good luck. Lines of magical text appeared before his eyes. The system's voice echoed steadily. Executing contract extraction. The notification voice became more solemn, as if announcing a rare treasure. Proceeding to extract contract from target Yinha. Contract, gluttonous iron. Grade, high class. Quality, masterpiece. A type of iron that generates heat by consuming other metals. It will corrode any iron material it touches and absorb its core into itself. Absorbs iron to create mineral blood. Cihoon stared blankly at the object before his eyes. So it's done. Right at this moment, Yinha leaned forward again. You're planning to sell that item to me, right? He immediately shook his head. No, I'm not. Hearing this, she raised an eyebrow slightly. But you just said it's done. Suddenly, a voice came from outside. Dean, it's Kim In-chan. He paused, his voice clear and solemn, like conveying an undelayable order. The Academy Dean announces that the award ceremony will commence right now. In-chan turned to Cihoon. May I take student Cihoon with me? She nodded slightly, her gaze as deep as a rippleless night lake. I understand. Cihoon quickly headed outside. He stealthily turned around. Then I'll see you later, Dean. Over here, Yinha's stomach was still crying out for help. The place considered the heart of Babel Academy, the ancient main building, the Marduk Mansion. The scene shifted inside the mansion. At this moment, Cihoon hurriedly followed In-chan from behind. As he walked, he lowered his voice to remind him, his gaze sterner than usual. Please pay attention to your manners when standing before the Academy Dean. Not only did he generously overlook you ruining the hall during the performance. In-chan paused for half a beat, then continued. But he is also someone on a completely different level compared to us. He smiled faintly, his eyes unusually calm. You don't need to worry too much, Professor. Cihoon quickly stepped inside. Lewis looked straight at the young man in front of him. You must be student Cihoon, the Ascended Emperor, Academy Dean Lewis. Before I went back in time, he was the hero who sacrificed himself in the solitary battle against the demon god of heaven's destruction. One of the 6 great demon gods. His deadly appearance was suddenly recreated in his memories. A feeling of admiration swelled in his heart. He truly is a perfectionist. Lewis spoke up at this moment. The weapons you demonstrated today were all very interesting. He suddenly sighed. I can't say there isn't a bit of regret, but I have very high expectations for you. Hearing this, Cihoon froze in place. Regret. His heart surged like a smoldering fire in a forge. Even though I prepared myself mentally, I still feel like throwing the 5-color fire sword and the fire-storing scabbard right back into the forge. Just then, Lewis made an offer. Therefore, to acknowledge your talent and effort, I will grant you 2 rewards. He asked seriously, tell me what you need. Cihoon's eyes widened slightly, surprise clearly showing on his usually calm face for the first time. 2 rewards. He quickly replied, his voice clear and without hesitation. I desire rewards that can help increase my mana and my memory capacity. As soon as he finished speaking, Lewis swung his arm into the air. A symbol was seen forming in midair. Cihoon stared at the 2 treasures. Black ink stone. Grade. Hero. Quality. Masterpiece. A shattered piece carrying ink-colored light falling from the night sky, possessing the property of devouring everything except darkness. Capable of absorbing the mana of anything that comes into contact with the crystal. Dream ivory. Grade. Hero. Quality. Average. The tusk of a Baku that feeds on dreams. It harbors illusionary mana capable of crossing the boundary between reality and dreams, helping to connect with dreams by using the source of illusionary mana. He put on a blank expression. Black ink stone is precious enough, but dream ivory is an even harder thing to find. Cihoon smirked. It's a bit hard to control right now, but I already have an idea on how to use them. He observed him for a long while, his voice softer but still carrying weight. Are you satisfied with them? Cihoon bowed slightly in gratitude. They are truly wonderful, sir. Right after he left, someone's voice rang out. What are you calculating? The magic mirror harbored doubts about only that boy receiving 2 rewards. This action is not like your usual style at all. Lewis replied dismissively. I gave them simply because that child has the capability to comprehend them. Receiving the answer, it couldn't help but marvel. Is that so? I keep getting the feeling he's like an old man in a young body. He spoke in a low voice. That only proves he has a depth of character so profound that even you can feel it. Lewis watched Cihoon's figure gradually disappear down the ancient hallway. Moreover, even I cannot fully understand the depth of that young man. The scene focused on the mansion named Marduk. Inside the classroom, a group of male students was constantly discussing. At this moment, a male student happily approached Han. Han, where do you want to go for lunch? He refused immediately without hesitation. Sorry, I have an appointment with Senior Howard today. The male student's jaw dropped in shock upon hearing this. An appointment with the third-year top student of the Boshipa department? Han replied casually. It's just that our 2 families have a close relationship, so we meet frequently. He said he'd give me some advice about life at the academy, so that's why we're meeting. The guy stepped a bit closer. Then, if possible, could I tag along? Right at this moment, Cihoon entered. He glanced at Han with cold eyes. As soon as they saw Cihoon, the whole classroom fell silent. His gaze was once again glued to Han. He instinctively felt a chill down his spine. What's with that weird look? Seeing this, Cihoon smirked, laughing disdainfully. It seems he started to realize his own position. Over here, Han gritted his teeth so hard they squeaked because his pride was trampled. Damn it, do I have to lose to a lowly bastard like him again? The classroom door opened forcefully. Inchan walked in with a decisive stride, his stern gaze sweeping over everyone. Settle down in your seats. He looked around the classroom. All right, it seems everyone is gathered. Inchan directed his gaze toward the class and continued. Since this is the first class, we will start with self-introductions. He seriously introduced. This metal bar is a type of material called reflective alloy. It is dozens of times more sensitive to mana than ordinary ores. Therefore, if you channel mana into it like this. Saying this, Inchan emphasized every single word. A weapon in your mind will easily be formed. At the same time, Cihoon stared at him with admiration. It's not for nothing that he's on the list of the top 100 artisans in the world. Even during the contract stone test, I vaguely realized it. But this person is truly a genuine talent. Inchan paused for a beat, his voice dropping, carrying philosophical depth. Due to its overly sensitive nature, it's very difficult to use as a weapon in actual combat. But it reflects the characteristics of your subconscious, helping the user to see their true self. He raised his voice. That is why we call equipment made from reflective alloy alternative egos. The refining department's self-introduction will be replaced by crafting these egos. At the final minute, Inchan didn't forget to remind them. The finished products will be displayed in the main building for a week, so please do your best. The group of students immediately said in unison, Yes, sir. Cihoon's gaze stopped on the male student. He thought to himself, this piece of reflective alloy is definitely worth over 10 million won. Truly Babel's style. Even the greeting is so extravagant. At the same time, Han startled when he grabbed the sword. Seeing this, he sighed endlessly. Geez. Cihoon turned around, sighing helplessly. There isn't a single person here who possesses the most important talent. Just then, Inchan spoke up. Finally, Lee Cihoon, please. He quickly replied, Yes, sir. Cihoon thought to himself, since I'm already the top student of the department anyway, there's no need to hide my true abilities anymore. A bold idea suddenly sparked in his mind. If I'm going to do it. Cihoon's pupils flashed with the fire of ambition. Should I go all out and put on a big show? Then suddenly, a massive explosion erupted right inside the classroom. At the same time, a male student threw out a sarcastic remark. There really are a lot of people gathered here. The reason must be Lee Cihoon's charisma, right? He continued with a mocking, annoyed tone. It's hilarious how they keep hyping him up, saying his level is on a different tier and all that, when he's just a freshman. The person next to him agreed. Exactly. The two looked up at the object. Inchan's words echoed back. Although an unusual incident occurred during the crafting process when it absorbed 19 nearby reflective alloys. We evaluate that this very thing demonstrates student Lee Cihoon's innate talent. Therefore, we have decided to display it in its original state. A male student chuckled disdainfully, his sarcastic voice ringing out amidst the whispering crowd. That was definitely just a coincidence caused by the impact of some skill. The person next to him jerked his chin toward the artwork, his eyes full of doubt and envy. Didn't that only happen because he used too many reflective alloys at the same time? The male student chimed in. It's been a long time since we've seen a top student from the refining department. Maybe they're trying to promote him as a true genius. Just then, Erica suddenly spoke up. I actually have a slightly different perspective. Zeke stepped closer. He smirked, laughing disdainfully. I also agree with your opinion. Saying this, Zeke lowered his voice. It seems the amount of reflective alloy available there was still not enough to show off Lee Cihoon's true potential. In another development, the hammer face was seen smashing down hard. Right now, Cihoon's face was covered in cold sweat. The man lowered his voice, his eyes flashing with unbelievable surprise. Did you manage to time it back then? Up until now, there hasn't even been a minor error of 0.01 seconds. Assistant Han stared blankly at him. What exactly can we even teach such an outstanding kid anymore? He chuckled softly. Let's just skip his part and be done with it. Then he turned and signaled. Does anyone want to see a demonstration? After a long while, Assistant Han announced, All right, class dismissed. Over here, Cihoon's eyes were still glued to the hammer. Then he stared at the metal pieces under the table. Without hesitation, Cihoon raised the hammer high once again. Assistant Han suddenly spoke up. Are you planning to smash it to pieces? He immediately stopped, bowing politely. Hello, teaching assistant. He took a step closer while reminding him. We need to hand these items over after this week's forging class, so don't break them. Cihoon tilted his head slightly. Hand them over? Assistant Han put on a weary expression. Where do you think the students get the budget for their activities? Babel provides support based on the performance of the number of weapons sold to the outside market. He pondered for a moment, then questioned. So, what exactly are you feeling dissatisfied with right now? Is it your physical condition or your mana capacity? Faced with the unexpected question, Cihoon chuckled softly. Currently, the biggest problem lies in my body. In that moment, complex thoughts arose in his heart. To craft forging tools, I need to forge black ink stone. But I lack the stamina to carry out that task. Assistant Han tilted his head, his voice suggestive, like offering a tempting shortcut. If that is truly necessary for your forging. After a moment of thought, he immediately offered a solution. Then wouldn't using enhancement charms be faster than physical training? Hearing this, he couldn't help but laugh. I never even considered that option because it's a method I always avoided before going back in time. The corner of Cihoon's mouth lifted as if he had just found a new path. Come to think of it, since I've returned to the past and am currently facing stamina issues, I can totally proceed with forging the black ink stone while under the effects of an enhancement charm. He bowed his head slightly. Thank you for the useful advice, just now. Assistant Han shook his head slightly. It's no big deal. Then Cihoon looked up, his gaze dropping to the sword in his hand. While you were casting, you were using way more mana than necessary, he reminded him. Reduce it to about 70% of the current level, and instead focus the impact force on a single point. Before leaving, Cihoon affirmed firmly, doing that will bring you better results right now. Hearing this, he smiled awkwardly. A freshman who just enrolled is giving pointers to a teaching assistant? Then Assistant Han turned to look at the hammer. Right now, the sky was getting hotter and hotter. Babel always encourages proactive self-study for each individual student. The system's voice rang out. The door is beginning to open. The instructor's voice continuously came through. You have the right to register for classes from other specialized departments, or even take dozens of subjects in a single semester. However, you must complete all your major subjects. And if you accumulate 3 failing grades, you will be expelled immediately. Everything is completely free, but you must take responsibility for your choices. Waiting for the loudspeaker voice to echo, the next stop is You are, the area for the magic department. Right now, Cihoon leisurely stepped off the train. As soon as he looked up, Erica suddenly appeared. A male student blocked the way, his voice full of provocation. Hey, stop blocking the way and move aside. Cihoon frowned. Who are these guys? Coming out of nowhere to pick a fight. He raised his voice to remind them. You are the ones who need to get out of the way. Hearing this, the male student's body trembled violently with anger. Erica stepped closer. She asked curiously, where are you planning to go? Faced with Erica's unexpected action, the male student was dumbfounded. Lady Erica? Over here, Cihoon answered honestly. To the magic department. I was wondering if there are any minor subjects I could register for. Seeing this, she decisively made an offer. Then let me show you the way. The guy hurriedly cut in. Lady Erica, the meeting is about to take place right now. She decisively threw out a remark. You guys just go by yourselves. The male student looked anxious. But the seniors said they really want you to be there. Erica glanced over with cold eyes, her voice calm, but leaving no room for argument. I have no interest. Returning to Cihoon, his eyes didn't waver at all. Then the two quickly left, ignoring the male student calling out loudly, Lady Erica. When the space became quiet, Erica turned to him, her eyes becoming much more serious. What exactly kind of minor subject are you looking for? Cihoon answered slowly. I'm trying to learn more about enhancement charms. She continued to ask. Specifically, what kind of enhancement effect? He replied calmly. Something that can enhance physical abilities, but absolutely must not affect the forging process. Hearing this, Erica immediately suggested, then try using barrier magic. Cihoon stopped in his tracks. Barrier? Isn't that type of magic usually only used for defense? She slowly explained. It can be very versatile depending on how you use it. Erica took out a thin piece of paper from her pocket while gesturing. Let me give you an example like this. She handed the paper to him. Here, try tearing this piece of paper. Cihoon took it, clearly feeling a thin layer of mana covering the surface. He was slightly surprised inwardly. Did she just increase its durability? No, not exactly. It still maintains its original properties, but it will automatically become much sturdier when subjected to a strong external force. Cihoon stared at the piece of paper while analyzing it. This technique is extremely suitable for forging because it requires meticulous control. Erica chuckled softly. For complex applications like this, you'll probably need the help of a professor. The professor who teaches barrier structure is married to a relative of my family, so I can introduce you to him directly if you want. Saying this, Erica raised her voice slightly. In exchange, she opened her mouth to speak. Then suddenly, Cihoon exclaimed, This is it. The piece of paper was immediately torn. Faced with that scene, she couldn't help but feel a bit bewildered. You were able to comprehend my family's barrier magic in that short amount of time? And you even neutralized it already? Morning at the magic department of UR University. Cihoon's appearance beside her right in the middle of the campus left everyone astounded, becoming the center of curious stares and endless whispers. Why is Erica with a guy from another department? I think I saw them together yesterday too. If I remember correctly, they also appeared together at the recent exhibition. Amidst the staring eyes and whispers covering the campus, he could only sigh helplessly. These baseless rumors sure spread fast. Why do these people like to stick their noses into other people's business so much? How ridiculous. If Erica really had feelings for me, there would have to be a link between us. Anyway, I wonder what criteria they use to select people for the class. I registered for this class, but they require passing a test first. Erica immediately spoke up to introduce it. This is the location for the barrier structure exam. Cihoon began to glance around, then asked doubtfully, Is this the forest? The other students grumbled in frustration. Damn it, where in the middle of nowhere is this place? He quietly observed the forest before him and thought, Are we playing a treasure hunt for an exam? This is starting to get annoying. Did they use a barrier to hide something, or? Cihoon accidentally stepped on a strange spot, causing the barrier surrounding the forest to instantly shatter. Just as the barrier broke beneath his feet, the assistant instructor immediately appeared and announced loudly, You've passed the test. Shocked, he could only stammer in disbelief. What? Robert looked up at the assistant instructor standing by the desk with a skeptical expression. The young lady of that house is showing interest in our department's top student? Professor Robert Fury, specializing in barrier structures at the UR Magic Department. The assistant held out his phone to him and replied, "That's right. Take a look at this list." As he looked at the list on the phone, he exclaimed with disbelief, "I also find it strange that she would suddenly apply for a basic class like this. Thanks to her, the number of applicants has tripled, but I'm not happy about it at all." Because there was also a request from the young master of the Enro house. This year, we will be adding a test using the Lost Souls Labyrinth. The Lost Souls Labyrinth. This is a type of barrier that disrupts the senses, causing one to lose their sense of direction. Although it's only a rudimentary barrier, someone completely ignorant of magic wouldn't even realize it's there. Witnessing the scene before him, Robert was stunned into silence. He marveled internally as he realized the young man's true ability. Even without the young lady's help, he was able to break that labyrinth with just his instincts. He announced clearly to the crowd, "All of you here have passed the first round. From now on, we will divide the classes based on the second test." A student confidently raised his hand. "I'd like to go first." The student calculated in his head, "This is a golden opportunity to impress Erica." Robert nodded in approval. "All right. The second test is also very simple. Use your magic to dismantle the active barrier in front of you. I will evaluate you based on your completion time, so be quick and precise." The test begins. A barrier appeared, shaped like a spiderweb with a spider at the center acting as the nucleus. This spider will constantly evade any magic sent along the threads. As long as it exists, this web will regenerate forever. Seeing the barrier, the student who had volunteered froze. He calculated nervously. "I don't have enough mana to envelop the entire magic structure in the usual way. If that's the case, I'll overwhelm it with speed." He looked down at his watch and commented sternly, 2 minutes and 23 seconds. You need to focus more on understanding the barrier structure. In any case, this result isn't too bad. The student glanced over at the young lady, hoping for some encouragement, but Erica's face remained expressionless, as still as a calm lake. The student could only bow his head in disappointment and reply, "Thank you, Professor." "Now, Robert," called out, "Next person, hurry up." After everyone had tried, he stated helplessly, "All of you will start in the basic class. Next up is Erica Ino's test. You may begin." She stepped forward with an unusually calm demeanor. Erica simply raised a finger and gently touched the barrier. The entire barrier suddenly lit up and shattered into 100 pieces. In the dead silent space, the surrounding students' faces were numb with astonishment. Soon after, whispers began to rise like waves. How could she be so unbelievably fast? She deconstructed the entire formula and caused the barrier to collapse completely. The top student is on a whole other level. Amidst the unending praise, he slowly walked forward. Robert's eyes glanced at the stopwatch, and he spoke coldly, 22 seconds. "Good job. But if you had used the standard dismantling method, you might have been 2 seconds faster." Faced with Robert's strictness, Erica didn't flinch. She just bowed her head slightly and replied calmly, "I will keep that in mind." He said nothing more, his sharp eyes glancing at the next contestant as a silent warning of his extremely high standards, then called out the name. Finally, Lee Seol. Watching Seol step forward, Robert assessed him internally. He doesn't look like anything special. Let's see what he's really made of. Instead of hastily casting magic or performing cumbersome preparations, he leisurely sat down right in front of the barrier. The whispers from the crowd of students grew louder. What the hell is he doing? Doesn't he know the test is being timed? Cihoon remained calm, his gaze unwavering as he meticulously analyzed each layer of the energy shield structure. This barrier has very lifelike properties, namely the ability to self-repair and return to its original state if the impact doesn't reach a certain threshold. Therefore, to be able to forge this type of stone, the smith must channel all impulses at the exact same moment with precise proportions. Robert finally lost his patience. He strode closer and questioned, "What kind of trick are you trying to pull?" "Hey, listen to me." Her voice cut through the air. "Just leave him be." Faced with Erica's powerful request, he could only fall silent. Robert said no more. His lips pressed into a thin line as he stepped back. In that absolute silence, Cihoon's mind was working at maximum speed. "So, if I do this, can I retain the impulses that have accumulated inside the stone, instead of having them shatter or dissipate as usual?" The moment his finger touched the weak point, the entire barrier erupted in fierce flames. Amidst the thick, stunned atmosphere, Cihoon spoke in a normal voice. He sounded as nonchalant as if he'd just finished a trivial task. It's done. With just this, he thought to himself, I can forge the dark stone. Cihoon stood up. He walked past the shattered fragments with an air of indifference, as if its existence had never meant anything. As soon as the barrier dissipated, he stood up and walked away decisively, ignoring all the stares around him. The assistant looked at the clock and announced, "The time is 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Robert watched Cihoon's back as he walked away, thinking, how much time he took is actually meaningless. This time it may have taken him 7 minutes, but I'm sure the next time he encounters a similar barrier, he'll destroy it in the blink of an eye. He didn't just break the barrier. He created a formula to neutralize that magic himself. She watched that lonely figure, her eyes filled with anxiety. Erica thought, if his godlike forging skills are combined with magic, I'm truly afraid of what kind of terrifying artifact he'll create. A letter arrived, announcing, we have received an application for intermediate forging with hero grade or higher materials from first-year student Lee Seol. In accordance with Article 8 of the Forge Safety Regulations, those who wish to supervise, please contact us. At that moment, the instructor looked at the computer screen and mused, I wonder how many people will show up this time. Suddenly, messages flooded in, surprising him greatly. Wow, everyone's responding so fast. However, absolutely no one from Vice Principal Michael's faction has applied. Rumor has it that the atmosphere over there is very tense because his son was pushed down to second place. It seems the rumors are true. The instructor began to deliberate. Then I should start choosing people. His eyes widened in shock as he read a message stating, the principal has announced that she will personally supervise student Lee Seol's intermediate forging session. Suddenly, Yinha appeared and spoke. Long time no see, student Lee Seol. He froze, completely shocked. She came all the way here in person for something like this? She replied nonchalantly. As the principal, I'm here to personally verify your abilities. Cihoon didn't look directly at Yinha and simply replied softly, if things have come to this, I have no choice but to pour all my effort into the crafting process. With that, he immediately began forging on the spot. The first step in forging the dark stone. There are actually many methods to process this stone, but the most difficult technique among them is the night process. You must place the stone in a space of complete, lightless darkness, then use mana to separate the impurities from the ink-like stone. During this process, even a small mistake in mana control will cause the stone to harden immediately and become useless. It sounds easy, but in reality, it's no different from restructuring matter itself. She remained completely silent, observing Seol's every move. While his hands moved rhythmically, Seol's mind calculated coldly. Is a quarter the best I can achieve? If I reduce it any further, its performance won't be sufficient. Second step. He began to conjure a blazing red flame directly from the palm of his hand. The terrifying heat enveloped the metal mass. The space around him began to twist with every breath Cihoon took. He channeled mana through the crimson flame to filter out only the appropriate firepower. This stabilized flame is called flowing wildfire, and it possesses the property of maintaining the exact same temperature as the moment it was formed. Third step. Use a hammer enveloped in flowing wildfire to strike the heavy dark stone. The key is not to rest until the deformation lessens due to the flame's properties. Watching the blazing fire, Yinha thought grimly. Even if he's immune to fire, it doesn't mean he doesn't feel pain. How much has he worn himself down? He swung the hammer down repeatedly with a strange fervor. Amidst the resounding clang of the hammer echoing throughout the forge, in a hidden corner of the school grounds, Erica still stood quietly, waiting for Seol. Despite Seol's self-forgetting passion, she stood nearby, looking rather uninterested. Yinha kept yawning, looking sleepy. She stood there with a tired and listless expression. For hours of forging had passed. The properties of the dark stone, having absorbed the flame to its limit, were beginning to change. He let out a sigh of relief and thought, it's done. The deformation has stopped. He melted the processed dark stone and poured it into a pre-made mold. The fatigue and listlessness on Yinha's face instantly vanished, replaced by a glance of astonishment. She thought, casting, not forging? The properties will change because of the darkness deep inside the mold. What on earth is he thinking? Fourth step. Just as Cihoon was about to begin the fourth step, Yinha suddenly spoke up, stopping him. Wait. Ignoring her stern warning, he didn't stop. In Cihoon's mind now, only numbers and magic structures were running. Slow down the changes in the dark stone with a formula, break the barrier, and create a magic circuit in that brief moment. As the magic circuit formed in that fleeting moment of the dark stone's transformation, everything suddenly fell silent. Revealed in Cihoon's hand was the final product, an ink spider bracelet, deep and silent black. As soon as the bracelet took shape, a mechanical sound broke the silence. The system's notification board suddenly appeared before him. Permanent item, ink spider bracelet, has been completed. To break conventions, a bold challenge that spares no one is necessary. Although the material's potential has not been fully exploited, the smith's skill in forging new possibilities is worthy of being considered first class. You have acquired the skill, Black Soul Thread D. Ink Spider Bracelet. Level, Rare. Quality, Medium. A bracelet crafted by forging heavy dark stone. It possesses the property of absorbing the wearer's mana, and its weight will increase in proportion to that mana. It absorbs and stores the wearer's mana. Can use the skill, Explosive Ring. At that moment, in the dead silent space, Cihoon let out a soft sigh and said, Success. Amidst the quiet atmosphere, Yinha's hungry stomach let out a loud, resounding growl, as if declaring itself to the world. He froze, glancing at her with a speechless, bewildered expression, while she blushed with embarrassment, hastily covering her stomach as if to hide her body's betrayal. Cihoon could only look up at the sky and let out a helpless sigh, as if he had just witnessed a legend crumble before his very eyes. Yinha observed it and offered her subjective opinion. Could this be a resonance phenomenon? Impressive. It looks simple, but its power isn't that strong. If done correctly, we could aim to create a set item effect. He maintained a normal expression as if nothing had happened, slowly presenting the item to her and saying, I apologize for not being able to give you a weapon when you're in trouble because of me. I don't know if this will help as a light snack to cleanse the palate, but at least please accept it. Cihoon said no more, just held his posture and stared intently at Yinha. She took the item from his hand and suddenly activated her unique skill, Soul Furnace. Yinha took a small taste and then commented, This is quite tasty. He blurted out, Really? She replied nonchalantly, Yes, metaphorically speaking. It tastes like crispy fried food. Cihoon thought to himself, What a relief. Have I developed a habit of making things to Ryu Yinha's taste? Perhaps it will be easy to raise my bond level with her. He smiled faintly at Yinha and said gently, I'm glad you like it. She nodded in satisfaction and said, Of course. Though it's a bit of a shame to eat this while those other items are on display. By the way, when do you plan to deal with the 5-colored blade and the flame-storing scabbard? Cihoon shook his head slightly, his gaze remaining characteristically calm as he replied, I don't intend to sell them right now. Yinha paused, her expression a mix of curiosity and impatience as she pressed, Sorry, what do you mean? Is the price still not high enough? He answered calmly, I'll keep them to prepare for the conquest class. Cihoon smiled and thought, And besides, they say hunger is the best spice. He nodded slightly as if making a promise and said, When I have equipment worthy of giving you, I will let you know first. She blushed with embarrassment, pushing aside her awkwardness to regain her composure, and said, I'll be looking forward to that. The forging is all done now, right? He replied, Yes. Yinha then reminded him, Then let's leave. The staff will come to clean up. Cihoon replied hoarsely, That's a relief, because I don't have any strength left to clean. As he was walking, he suddenly felt dizzy and fell backward. She frantically caught him. Yinha asked worriedly, Are you okay? He quickly composed himself and replied, Yes. I'm fine. I think I just mismanaged my stamina a bit. She then made a request. Let me take you back to the dorm. Or are you afraid of heights? Cihoon answered decisively, I'm not. Immediately, Yinha swept him up into her arms princess style, catching him completely off guard. Let's go. She planted one foot to brace herself. Yinha powerfully shot off like a flash of lightning through the air, still carrying him in her arms. Yinha felt the abundant energy circulating and thought, the mold I just ate can draw out this much power? While being carried by her and soaring through the air at a terrifying speed, Cihoon could only surrender helplessly and think, in many respects. The current situation has changed a lot compared to before I returned to the past. At that moment, Erica was still patiently waiting for him on the school grounds. Cihoon still hasn't shown up? I need to give him this invitation. On the free forum of Babel Academy's metallurgy department, an anonymous person posted a picture of Erica, raising a question. Why is that girl here? Isn't she the top new student of the combat department? A flood of questioning comments followed. Someone spoke up. She's been standing motionless in front of the metallurgy department's main building for 3 hours now. Shivers. Then a series of people replied to that comment. Is she waiting for the top student of the forging department? I saw her waiting for him at the dorms last time. Is it that simple? If so, she could just call him and tell him to come down. You idiot, I was just guessing. Am I not allowed to? Damn it. Cihoon had seen all of this. He helplessly asked himself, what on earth is this all about? Cihoon reassured himself. Oh well, if it's really important, they'll surely find me again. Just then, the classroom door opened. A middle-aged man entered and introduced himself. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Starting today, I will be in charge of teaching the Understanding Tools class. My name is Ricardo Mile. He placed his hand on the door to get everyone's attention and ordered. First, let's all move to the training center. Whoever arrives last will be punished with 20 laps around the stadium. Go. As soon as Ricardo finished speaking, the students scrambled to their feet and bolted. Why are we suddenly running? Cihoon was also tense amidst the crowd. Isn't this supposed to be a theory class? They kept muttering. I don't know either. Just run for now. Finally, they all arrived. Cihoon was made to run the full 20 laps by Ricardo. He ran nonchalantly and replied, Yes, I'm running. The people around them saw this and couldn't stop gossiping. This guy's stamina is so bad it can't get any lower. I wonder if he really completed the intermediate forging assignment properly. A while later, Ricardo came out and called, All right, everyone, focus up. He explained seriously. Initially, the Understanding Tools course was designed to teach the theory behind the structure of various types of equipment. However, due to the recent flamesword hunts, we have to change our training methods. There are attacks targeting smiths capable of crafting hero-grade or higher flame swords. Those people are called the flamesword hunters. Listening as he ran, Cihoon thought to himself, even before I turned back time, that was an unsolved case. He continued, no matter how strong a defense system you prepare, in the end, the only thing that can protect you is this body. Then Ricardo raised his voice and instructed, Therefore, along with studying tools in this class, you will also be taught skills to protect yourselves. The students replied in unison. Yes, sir. Ricardo said with satisfaction. Very good. Today, our topic will be the sword. Cihoon was still telling himself, this time, I need to be a bit more careful. His feet kept moving. To do that, the top priority is to improve my own physical strength. Cihoon's hand clenched slightly as he assessed. Even though I made it myself, its effect is surprisingly good. The system displayed information. This is a bracelet cast from dark stone, capable of absorbing the wearer's mana to increase its weight accordingly. It will store and draw the master's mana, allowing the activation of the explosive ring skill. The explosive ring skill helps control gravity within a 1-meter radius around the user. Looking at the system's stat display, he set a goal for himself. My basic stats have all increased by an average of about 5 points. Before the first year ends, I must make this body stronger at all costs. After a while, Ricardo finally turned to call Cihoon. Stop running. Come here. He glanced down at his hand again. Explosive ring. He secretly assessed Cihoon. Your physical condition seems better than I thought. Then Ricardo offered the sword to him. Let's see if you have an aptitude for swordsmanship. Try swinging this sword. Cihoon took it and observed it for a moment. It might be a bit difficult to move flexibly because of the ink spider bracelet's effect. He was a bit hesitant. It's not exactly a well-honed technique, but should I try using that move? In the end, Cihoon decided and swung the sword down. A student outside burst out laughing. Too slow. He must be exhausted after finishing his run. Still, his form doesn't look too bad. But Ricardo had a completely different assessment. No, it's actually excellent. The path of your sword seems to have a clearly defined course it needs to follow. He turned and commented. However, the tempo is still too rushed. It's better to correct this point before continuing. Cihoon's gaze sharpened in an instant. Ricardo's whole body seemed to tremble. The space around him seemed to turn white. Ricardo's gaze froze. He looked in confusion at the sword held close to his neck. Ricardo wondered to himself, could it be? Did I just feel fear from a technical student? So much so that it created such a terrifying hallucination. Then he hesitantly inquired, who taught you that sword style? Cihoon smiled faintly. But inside, he was completely bewildered. Why did that move work? He once said it was just a technique he improvised in 10 minutes. Cihoon recalled old memories, when Wang Su had scratched his head and said, hey, I told you I'd pay you back next time. Everyone falls on hard times now, and then, why are you in such a rush? He kept begging, can I pay with a technique instead of money? One technique, I'll teach you, so please just stop. Returning to the present, Cihoon awkwardly scratched his head and lied. I just regularly watch videos of other heroes' battles. Ricardo didn't believe him, but still smiled and asked, swordsmanship, do you really want to be properly trained? He offered, I'll prepare a letter of recommendation for you to join the body control class at AGF. That afternoon, at the AG Center, Cihoon stood bewildered amidst the crowd. Wang Su was stomping his foot in frustration. How many times have I told you I have nothing left to teach you? But Z still wouldn't listen. Student Z, don't treat me like this. He was a retired S-rank hero and also a regular customer. Ma Guangsu, known as the Sword Breaker. Cihoon found it hard to believe. This guy who's always drunk and lost in gambling is a professor. When he saw him, Guangsu asked, and who are you? Cihoon presented the letter and introduced himself. I'm Li Cihoon, a first-year student from the metallurgy department. I came here with a recommendation from Professor Ricardo. He asked with some surprise, Ricardo? He's the one who recommended you. Z also scrambled up to explain. That kid is the top student of the forging department this year. He assessed him bluntly. No matter how I look at him, he seems incredibly ordinary. Then Guangsu questioned Z. Hey you, are you really that desperate to learn from me? He replied with excitement. Yes, that's right. Hearing that, he pointed at Cihoon and proposed. Then, if you defeat that kid, I'll agree to take you on. He arranged a match for the two of them. Just a single round. The first one to land a valid hit on the opponent wins. Guangsu waved his hand as a signal. All right then. The match begins. As soon as he finished speaking, Zeke quickly rushed forward. Cihoon, however, stood still, tightening his grip on the sword. Guangsu was a bit suspicious. Is it relaxation? A way to optimize flexibility by eliminating all muscle power? If so, the most basic counter isn't a direct strike, but grappling. Meanwhile, Z had already swung his arm to attack. Guangsu sighed in frustration. This is exactly why I hate show-offs. All they do is scheme and play mind games without ever having a proper fight. He complained, this isn't fun at all. What a buzzkill. Immediately after, Z rushed in and wrapped his arms around Cihoon's stomach. He gritted his teeth in surprise. What is this monstrous strength? Then Cihoon told himself, but he activated the skill, Explosive Ring. The power from it erupted in a blinding flash of light. Cihoon had successfully turned the tables. He let out a pained hiss. Cihoon's fist was right in front of Z's face. Blood dripped from his nose. He saw it and smiled faintly, asking, looks like I was a little faster, wasn't I? The space quickly fell silent. After a moment, Z spoke up. That last attack was really. Before he could finish, Wang Su ordered, everyone dismiss. I recall promising to teach you if you want. Hearing this, Cihoon sat up and proposed, since he lost to me, shouldn't you be teaching me instead? He started to provoke him. I can't believe the top student of AGF lost to a student from the forging department. Just hearing about it sounds pathetic. Z was beaten to a daze. Pathetic. Seeing this, Wang Su also spoke up. That's true. Perhaps I should whip this fool into shape a bit, so he's strong enough to take care of himself. He turned excitedly and exclaimed, in that case. He added, I'll arrange a time and send it to you. Be there on time. This made Zeke extremely happy. He bowed deeply to express his gratitude. Thank you so much, sir. Guangsu sighed in annoyance and waved his hand. If you're done, you can leave now. Then he turned to look at Cihoon and said, I still have some private matters to discuss with this kid. After the room was left with just the two of them, Guangsu proposed, show me again the sword technique you used against Ricardo. He quickly complied. I understand. Cihoon looked at him nervously. Then he shot forward with the sharp blade in his hand. However, in a split second, Cihoon's sword was knocked away by Guangsu. He stood there dazed as he listened to his critique. This is a move meant to defeat an opponent at first sight. Guangsu stated coldly, the idea is good, but the execution is still very crude. Do you think it's normal for a sword technique to reveal its weakness after the second use? He angrily scolded. If anyone dared to teach this to someone else and praise it as good, I would definitely break their limbs. But Guangsu didn't know that he himself was the one who had taught it. Guangsu sighed and proposed, just you wait. I'll build a complete body on top of this loose technical framework of yours. Cihoon asked nonchalantly. So does that mean I'm officially enrolled in the class? Guangsu affirmed with a questioning look. Of course, that's right. Hearing that, he felt relieved and said his goodbyes. Then I'll be taking my leave for today. After Cihoon left, Guangsu glanced at him and remarked, this kid is really stiff. After going outside, Cihoon sighed in annoyance. Acting so high and mighty when he's just providing after-sales service. Just then, Z also came forward to greet him. Hey you. He replied in surprise, you haven't left yet? Then Z took out a letter and expressed, I have something I want to give you. Cihoon exclaimed in confusion, what is this? So he explained, an invitation to join Nobus. Basically, it's a gathering place for students from prestigious families. Cihoon had already realized. Could it be that Erica intended to give this to me before? Z said excitedly. There are a lot of arrogant people there, but I think this will be a good opportunity for you. However, Cihoon was a bit hesitant. I'm not sure if I should just accept something like this. He smiled brightly and expressed, it's thanks to you that I got into that class, so at least I have to show my gratitude like this. Seeing that, Cihoon also smiled and said, thanks. A while later on the road, he silently assessed, the electives I've registered for so far are barrier structure and body control. I also want to try an elective from the enhancement department. Right now, I'm considering between curses, alchemy, and enhancement. Distracted, he accidentally bumped into someone. Cihoon stopped and said, sorry. For them. His gaze suddenly froze. It turned out a girl had grabbed his wrist to examine it. Did you make it yourself? Cihoon stated bluntly, what if I did? Then she suggested, how about I enhance it for you? The system quickly displayed a notification. A link with the target named Lia Claude has been successfully established. Lia Claude is someone capable of upgrading equipment by 2 full ranks through enhancement. A genius among geniuses, who has crafted legendary equipment. The one known as the person who shook up the entire enhancement industry. Lia shouted in amazement. A dark stone at a rare level. She kept studying it. If I just add a few formulas here, it's too amazing to just stop at this level. Then Lia tiredly held her head. No, how am I supposed to solve this dilemma? Witnessing the scene, Cihoon silently assessed. I didn't expect her to be this eccentric. Then he asked flatly, is this equipment no good? Lia quickly explained the problem. The problem is there are too many things I want to do with it. It's cast from dark stone, but why is its compatibility so astonishingly high? There are too many formulas I can apply, which makes it impossible for me to decide. Hearing that, Cihoon placed something on the table and began, if that's the case, then this should be fine. Seeing her confusion, he reminded her, there's still more. Cihoon carefully instructed, furthermore, it also has a resonance phenomenon, so please keep that in mind. Lia asked with great excitement, who on earth are you? He introduced himself nonchalantly. I'm Lee Seol, a first-year student in the metallurgy department, and also the top student of the forging department this year. She was extremely surprised and exclaimed, a first year? That's incredible. I'm a third-year student in the enhancement department. Just then, someone came and interrupted their conversation. I have something to say. Please follow me for a moment. Cihoon quickly realized, is that Erica's errand boy? Lia stood up annoyed and scolded. Can't you see we were talking first? The man then lowered his voice and said, I want to resolve this peacefully, so please give me a few minutes. Cihoon replied coldly. If you have something to say, just say it here. So he sighed and proposed, apologize for your rude attitude towards Lady Erica. You dared to tear up the invitation she gave you right in front of so many people. Cihoon exclaimed in confusion. But that lady herself asked me to tear it up. His eyes immediately filled with anger as he scolded. Of course. You have your own reasons. If only you hadn't accepted the invitation from the mayor family. Cihoon questioned uncomfortably. Did Erica send you here? He quickly denied it. No, this is entirely my own personal intention. Just then, they also burst out laughing mockingly. Good one. She bluntly exposed him. Is there anyone who doesn't know you're the young master's trusted subordinate? This made him angry. How dare a failure like you? You might be deluding yourself into thinking you're someone special right now. He criticized Cihoon, but Babel is not lacking in geniuses who far surpass your level. However, he paid no mind and retorted, when you say that, are you referring to yourself? Cihoon's words hit him like a bolt of lightning. The man shouted angrily, shut your mouth. Cihoon witnessed his power erupt, but still calmly reached out his hand. With one hand, he was able to block the charging illusionary beasts. A stream of mana suddenly dissipated. He then remarked, just as I predicted, that thing wasn't created purely from mana. You used the dagger as a medium to attack, even though they were just illusions. This made the man stutter in fear. How could you? Cihoon nonchalantly spun the weapon in his hand and replied, who knows? He laughed with excitement and exclaimed, sounds pretty tasty. At the same time, the system announced, the greedy iron link mark has officially been activated. He exclaimed helplessly, my 1 million gold is gone. Cihoon smirked and expressed with a smile. With a taste this exquisite, no wonder you're going crazy for it. The system displayed information again. Link, Rio Al, greedy iron. Level, supreme high quality. A type of iron capable of generating thermal energy by consuming other types of iron. It corrodes metal upon contact and absorbs their core into itself. Hunts and consumes iron to create mineral blood. Remaining durability, 78%. Explosive ring. In a flash, Cihoon rushed forward. He punched him straight in the stomach. And so, the man collapsed on the spot. Seol turned to Kalia. So, senior. He glanced at her and asked, is there any lecture in the enhancement department that you feel is worth recommending to me? Leah's face suddenly turned red. Then she began to speak. Ancient enhancement. There's also an extremely brilliant senior there named Leah Claude. After leaving, the man clutched his stomach in pain. Damn it, he kept marveling. I can't believe a new student possesses such incredible reflexes. Just then, Erica also appeared from ahead. Excuse me, I'd like to borrow that dagger to take a look at it. He jumped in surprise and shouted, Lady Erica, when did you get here? Then the subordinate respectfully handed it to her. Here, it's here, my lady. Erica looked at the sword in her hand and reminded him, you don't need to report this to my brother. As for the family head, I will speak to him privately later. He scratched his head in confusion and replied, yes, I understand. Erica silently assessed. As expected, it's an equipment used as a conduit. It has an anti-theft charm engraved on it. She felt a bit bewildered. Could it be that he created a counter-skill himself based on my magic and Professor Roberts? Erica began to feel uncertain. Lee Seol, his talent for forging might even surpass S rank. I must reevaluate his magic compatibility to A rank. The system suddenly appeared. A link with the subject named Erica Eno has been established. This left Cihoon bewildered. What's going on? He began to speculate. Did she secretly watch me fight that subordinate? Cihoon held the daggers in his hand helplessly. Anyway, at least I received fair compensation. I'm still missing 10 daggers. Leaving them like this is a bit crude, but if I combine them with the Black Soul thread, they should be fine to use. He yawned and sighed. Oh well, let's put that aside for now. I was really looking forward to Professor Kim In-cheon's class, but I never expected to just listen to boring theories I already know by heart all day. Right after that, In-cheon spoke up seriously. That's enough explanation. Now, let's get to the main point. He picked up the item on the table and explained, even if you use the exact same type of metal, its shape will completely change depending on how you adjust the arrangement of mana. A stone suddenly appeared along with Incheon's words. The ability to apply this metal deformation technique is the decisive factor in a weapon's versatility. He placed different stones on the table. Then Incheon changed it back to its original color and affirmed, "Therefore, if you've chosen to walk the path of a smith, you must perfectly grasp the potential of the metal you're handling." Incheon presented the problem. "In today's class, we will practice the deformation technique on these iron ingots." He had someone distribute the stones, and then gave the instructions. First, use the flow of mana to create a scratch about 3 cm deep, right, in the center of the iron ingot. This item has been adjusted to be extremely sensitive to deformation, so you need to handle it with great care. Cihoon silently noted, "It seems that in the end, he doesn't completely deny magic-based forging methods." Incheon announced loudly, "The time limit is 10 minutes. You may all begin now." The students were completely bewildered with the iron ingots in their hands. "Why is this happening to me?" Everyone kept marveling. "It won't return to its original shape anymore." Just then, 2 people stepped forward. Cihoon said casually, "I'm done." Han glanced over at him and reported, "I'm finished, sir." Incheon praised them with satisfaction. "Very good. You two may move on to the next stage of training." Then he began to present another problem. "I will demonstrate a different arrangement pattern. Try to apply it." Han glanced at Cihoon confidently. "My speed and level of completion are on par with his. This time, I'll definitely win." Incheon continued to explain. "Next up will be the arrangement according to this diagram." He hastily performed it with overflowing confidence. "My chance has come." Han thought happily. "I'll complete it perfectly to impress everyone." However, after he finished, Incheon requested, "Han Bamit, try returning that iron ingot to its original state." Han was instantly stunned and asked, "Sir, what did you say?" When he tried to do it, he became flustered. "Oh, why did it turn out like this?" Han realized helplessly. The arrangement of the mana flows has been completely destroyed. Seeing this, Incheon spoke up, "That iron ingot couldn't withstand the deformation you just performed. In other words, it proves that your processing method was flawed from the very first step." He asked in confusion, "But I clearly did exactly what the professor instructed." He bowed his head low and explained, "What I emphasized earlier was that you must fully understand the inherent potential of the metal." Incheon continued to criticize, "If you can't restore the affected mana structure, then it's no longer deformation, but a severe degradation of the equipment. It will become a major variable affecting both quality and performance, so you must study this part carefully in the future." After hearing this, Han also bowed his head low and replied, "I will remember your teachings well, sir." Then he glanced at Cihoon and wondered, "Does that guy really understand the key point?" Finally, he concluded, "No way. He probably just got lucky while he was distracted." However, right after that, Cihoon succeeded. It really works. He managed to return the iron ingot to its original state. This left all the students bewildered. What? Didn't the professor just say that method was impossible? That can't be right. Even Incheon was confused. "Student Lee Seol, could you please perform that deformation technique for me one more time?" Cihoon thought helplessly, "I've accidentally misled him." He explained awkwardly, "This is only possible because this is a type of iron specially adjusted for students. With a normal standard iron ingot, it would definitely be impossible." Watching everything unfold, Incheon came to a new realization. So that's it. It's possible because of the sensitive properties of this refined iron ingot. He thought pensively, "I can't believe even I overlooked that important detail." A conqueror of peaks, and also the greatest smith. Kongwalik. He created it during his years as an S-rank hero, and for decades since, no one has been able to refute it. The deformation formula, considered the core of every smith in the world. The truth of steel and iron. Thinking this, Incheon hesitated slightly. Surely he couldn't have found another way, right? Should I believe that it's possible for this kid? Cihoon turned away sharply and thought, if he realizes it again this time, it'll be the second time in a row. Outside, it was getting dark. Incheon spoke up, "Class is dismissed. You may rest." Student Lee Seol, could you stay behind for a moment? He stopped and asked, "Sir, is something wrong?" Cihoon then took out an item and began. This is a gift to welcome you to the school, for helping me so much with the move to Babel. The system also displayed information. Blood Flame Gem. Rare. Quality high. An ore containing the essence of the crimson flame. It possesses a special ability used to smelt various mixed ores into a liquid form. Cihoon hesitated slightly. This is, he immediately explained. If you can absorb the essence from this flame gem, you will permanently enhance your crimson flame. I prepared it diligently because I heard you have the ability to control blood flame. Hearing that, he also nodded happily and began. Thank you, sir. This gift will surely be a tremendous help to me. Cihoon suddenly asked, one more thing. I wanted to ask if you intend to register for the elective course that I teach. He replied calmly. Are you referring to the basic research on equipment course, sir? This surprised Cihoon a bit. You know about that course too? Cihoon affirmed nonchalantly. Yes, I do. He silently assessed. That's one of the classes Babel invests in with the largest budget. Cihoon was a bit bewildered. What should I do now? Before I turned back time, I had never heard the name Kim Cihoon. So it's very likely that this professor's wasn't very good. However, right now he's a professor who's receiving a lot of attention. Then Cihoon cheerfully began. I've decided to take that course. Cihoon asked with concern, will you be all right? I see you've already registered for quite a few elective courses. But he also calmly explained, if I add this one, it'll only be my fourth. Cihoon didn't say anything more and shook Cihoon's hand, exclaiming, well then, I look forward to working with you in the near future. He replied politely, me too, sir. At the same time, the system displayed a notification. Extracting link from the subject Kim Cihoon. The link with the creator Lee Seol is currently at level 1. Link, Kim Cihoon, fire-bearing iron. High. Quality, low-medium. A type of metal containing fire within. It has properties very similar to wood, with the ability to store flames inside. Cihoon thought pensively to himself. If a person can extract metal from another's body, it means they can also forge and temper the human body itself. When multiple types of elemental mana coexist in one body, they will conflict with each other. Because this is extremely dangerous for a smith who always demands absolute precision, it has become an unwritten rule to use only one type of attribute that best suits one's aptitude. However, I myself am a completely different case. The internal mana used to suppress the heat is gradually being depleted appropriately. Perhaps, when it's empty, the mana will begin to draw the essence of the crimson flame inside. What I need to do as a smith is to establish a specialized mana circuit exclusively for the crimson flame right within my own body. A while later, Cihoon let out another sigh of relief. He understood clearly that. And only then can I perform forging right within myself. The system announced, your mana attribute has been strengthened from Blood Flame F rank to Blood Flame E+ rank. A series of notifications rang out. You have learned the S rank skill named Spirit Body Forging Magic. The body is the most primitive material a smith can polish. When the mana circuits within are forged, physical abilities will increase and strength will be enhanced. All basic stats have increased significantly due to the skill's effect. Lee Seol. Strength, D, 105. Durability, D, 100. Mana, D, 119. Speed, 87. Cihoon gritted his teeth and thought, Spirit Body Forging Magic? He remembered how he struggled in his past life when Liao questioned him. You have the materials right in your hands, yet you're thinking of giving up without even considering how to process them? She smiled and asked, you're not an idiot. Are you really going to just accept that? Returning to the present, he smiled with satisfaction and resolved, that's right. I must make full use of everything that can be used. And regardless of whether the opponent is an ally or an enemy, this time, I will definitely not let myself regret anything. In a large stone building, a voice spoke out. Today, we will finish the items that you have been crafting in the past sessions. Because these finished products are expected to be supplied both inside and outside the academy. The red-haired young man stood with his hands on his hips before everyone. It can be said that today's results will decide the entire outcome of this first semester. Therefore, all of you, give it your all so you won't have any regrets later. Is that clear? Everyone shouted in unison. Yes, sir. Cihoon observed the iron bar in his hand and thought, everything is really a mess. Because my current body can't keep up with my reflexes, many details are off. One of his hands held a hammer as he thought, this is not the time for me to be taking it easy. The flames flared up, waves of fire lashing out here. A pot of water boiled, steaming. Cihoon held the long bar in his hand and observed it quietly. This result should be acceptable for now. But he seemed to grow worried, thinking, with the remaining time, completing the other things will be extremely difficult. If I just do everything at an average level, I might receive additional budget support. But in the end, pouring my heart into creating at least one truly quality item is the right thing to do. He placed it on the whetstone. His hands moved swiftly, grinding the iron bar. He stood there, completely focused. That sound swirled in Sail's head. A sound like the apocalypse was approaching. His eyes were fixed on it. Every time I hear this characteristic sound, I manage to craft exquisite items. All his focus was on it, with the thought, this isn't just momentary sharpness, but a blade carved into its very being. A flash of light appeared below, named white light. The information became clearer. The white light longsword weapon has finally been completed. A great smith always reveals their will through the most basic things. The technique of an artisan who knows how to maximize the potential of materials to create a new blade is truly worthy of being called first class. A notification appeared. You have comprehended the skill named White Light Flow C. Two gleaming swords appeared with their information. White Light Longsword. Rarity, rare. Quality, high. This is a longsword with a pure white blade. The exquisitely sharpened blade combined with the mana arrangement makes it both incredibly durable and sharp. A masterpiece created by a smith with outstanding skills. Slashing power increases when mana is channeled into it. Cihoon held the newly crafted weapon and sighed in thought. Considering I only used ordinary iron, this result is acceptable. He felt a glimmer of hope looking at this weapon. My skills from before I turned back time are gradually being restored, even if just a little. Two knights stood behind, holding their swords worriedly, one after another whimpering. I really hate this feeling. Maybe I should consider dropping out. The following Saturday morning, the red-haired young man was sitting at a cafe, engrossed in his phone. A voice spoke up. I really can't believe you wanted to witness my enhancement technique. Cihoon was looking around on his way. Well, I'm actually quite curious about your basic skills. It seems quite crowded here. Lia, walking beside him, was also observing. Don't worry too much. My workplace is in a much quieter area. The two of them were on their way to a peaceful farm, asking one another, isn't this place a bit too far? Did you think you could see my technique so easily? She pulled him into the AGF metalwork shop. This is the place. She stepped inside and called out loudly, Grandma. Her voice echoed. I'm here. Helena, sitting inside, grimaced and cleaned her ear with her pinky. I'm not deaf. You don't have to shout like that. Cihoon, following behind, seemed annoyed when she asked, who's the kid with you? Your boyfriend. Lia, standing in front of him, replied, of course not. He finally cracked a smile when she said, he's the top student of the forging department who just enrolled this year. She replied, Babel must be in decline to accept someone who looks this weak. Then Helena propped herself up from the table. My name is Helena. Cihoon then spoke up. I'm Lee Cihoon, a first-year student from the metallurgy department. She seemed to flare up. All right, enough with the small talk. Get to work, quickly. The workload has piled up a lot this week because of these freshmen. Lia glanced away and sighed. Yeah, I know. She pointed to the room behind her. The entrance to the forge is this way. Looking at the items in the room made Cihoon think, that grandmother, her skills seem even deeper than I thought. He followed behind, observing carefully with each thought. I really can't understand why someone like her is running a metalwork shop in a place like this. She, walking ahead, was holding various items and wondering, the work really has piled up. A colorful tray was placed on the table. This is the enhancement palette, and these are powders ground from magic stones. He stood there with his arms crossed, glancing and thinking, I know the standard is 8 colors, but she uses them so diversely. Then he spoke up. Is your job to restore damaged enhancement formulas with this? Helena's hand picked up a paintbrush. Exactly. One of her hands held a pan. The other held a brush dipping into the palette. Thanks to this, I can both earn money and freely perform enhancements without worrying about material costs. The colored strokes shone with color. A common pan, through her hands, had become much more impressive. Cihoon stood there, quietly observing and thinking. I came here because she seemed to be in a slump. He recalled a memory of someone standing before him, saying, "A has-been who always brings failures to every exam and can't even keep the top spot in their own department." The image of Helena engrossed with her brush and pan sparked thoughts in him. Indeed, seeing it with my own eyes, I think I've found the cause and the solution for her slump. Along with these thoughts, he turned his head to leave. Being able to immerse oneself in work like that is a talent in itself. He stood with his hands in his pockets in front of a wooden table. An item on the table caught Cihoon's eye. This will resonate with the mana arrangement to create a special effect. He bowed his head to look closer. Anyway, it's been a long time since I've carved on white light. My hands are getting itchy. Helena, standing behind, saw him. Go ahead and use it. She stood behind him with a frown. Of course, if you have the ability to do so, then go ahead and pick any item from that pile over there. He was surprised and glanced back, thinking, it feels like she's intentionally ordering me around. He turned his head to look. If I'm allowed to use a special whetstone of that quality, then I definitely have to try it once. Then his eyes fixed on it. His hand gripped its handle. She stood behind with her arms crossed, observing. Are you really going to work on that item? Cihoon excitedly touched the blade of the knife. Yes. Looking at how the blade is evenly worn and the hilt isn't twisted, I can tell this is the knife of someone who truly understands how to use a sword. He stood before the table holding the whetstone with his thoughts. As for this whetstone, it's the type with the most uniformly compressed magic particles. If I use this, it will be strong enough to handle it even when sharpening the blade to its final limit of sharpness. His hand, light and skillful, placed the knife on the whetstone. Helena stood behind, a big question in her mind. Is that kid really a freshman who just enrolled this year? Leah, standing behind, shouted excitedly, startling her. It's all done. She was startled and realized. Oh, Grandma, when did you get here? She didn't turn her head to look. I don't know either, you silly girl. She came to stand beside her and looked over. You tried to find fault with my junior, but ended up being taught a lesson by him. Isn't that right? Helena nudged her hard, pushing her back angrily. You shut up. She looked towards Cihoon, hesitating. Are you finished with everything? He smiled and replied. This is the best result I can achieve for now. I'll definitely do better next time. Helena swung the sword down hard. All right, then both of you get going. Leah took his arm as they walked out, glancing back inside. She's just being grumpy for no reason. Let's go. Inside, she was standing with her hands on her hips where he had just been working. Suddenly, a man in formal attire knocked hard on the door. Sister, are you forging something? Helena peeked out, annoyed. Keep it down a bit. He quickly rubbed his head in embarrassment. The orders are really piling up. What about the kitchen knife? His somewhat agitated words came out. When are you going to quit that job at the restaurant? Someone who should be a professor in the combat department. She replied with an annoyed tone. Stop nagging about other people's personal hobbies. He walked in and picked up the knife on the table. It's here. Suddenly, he felt something unusual. He frowned and turned to look. Sister, were you drinking while sharpening this again? She stood there with her arms crossed, head down. I didn't do that. He continued. Then could this be the work of those assistants you've recently become close with? Their skills must have improved tremendously too. Helena bowed her head, eyes closed. It was a freshman. He turned around, not believing his eyes. What? Her eyes opened as she replied. A new kid who just enrolled this year is the one who sharpened it. Remembering Cihoon's image in her words, who on earth is that kid? Cihoon, walking outside, asked. That old lady at the metalwork shop was originally a former lecturer of the metallurgy department? Leah, strolling beside him, replied, That's right. I heard she retired 5 years ago and opened this shop at AGF. He glanced down at her. Is there some hidden story behind that? She glanced back. I'm not sure either. It's probably nothing too special. In the last 5 years, quite a few professors have left the metallurgy department. He looked over and replied, I see. Cihoon couldn't stop thinking. Considering this place will become the weakest department at Babel in the future, This is clearly a story I can't afford to ignore. Lia, walking beside him, raised her hand to her chest. But more importantly, what did you think of my enhancement technique? He was startled and looked down at her. The basics are certainly nothing to hide. It's quite good. Her face filled with pride. Oh my, what's the big deal about that? Suddenly, he seemed a bit disappointed and said, however, your way of thinking is still too narrow. The sky seemed to darken as Lia jumped out to stand opposite him. What did you just say? Cihoon pointed straight at her. You've already thought of better options, but don't dare to apply them. She stammered in reply. How could you possibly know that? Lia seemed to fall into a depression, bowing her head to listen to his critique. If you don't know, you can learn. But if you know and still can't do it, that's the real problem. A craftsman's imagination is their weapon and their gift. Yet you're holding it back yourself. Everything seemed to shatter within her. It's as if do you think I do these things just because I don't understand them? Cihoon winked, sighed, and looked for something in his coat. Then he pulled out a sword, surprising her. I have other plans, so I can't demonstrate for long. Watch carefully. He then took a stone from under the water as an example. Suppose someone asks you to place a stone at the bottom of the water. Creating the stone and dropping it is the smith's job. The image gradually faded. But depicting the image of that sinking stone on the water is the art of enhancement. That's why enhancement always carries within it the essence of dreams. A sword appeared with red lights flying around it. Blood flame. That sword flew before her, surprisingly, along with the power swirling around it. White light sword art. The image appeared with great power. Don't just affect the outer shell. Grant that enhancement deep into the weapon's core. He observed the knife in his hand along with the powers flying around it. If one layer isn't strong enough, divide it into multiple layers. Cihoon's hand swiped it down hard. When you do it this way, he stood there and threw it hard behind him, and it landed straight in the ground. It plunged straight into the earth. Everything seemed to stop for that line of power. He looked down and thought seriously, although I can't claim this as a standard enhancement technique for someone like Lia. Seeing her holding her hand out in front of her made him think even more. Geniuses like her will usually find their own way even when they're hesitant. Lia frantically pointed behind her. Junior, let me borrow that item for a moment. Please, let me borrow it. She went down and pulled Cihoon like a swing. I promise I'll perfect it and return it. Please, please. He was sweating and had to take out the item. I don't mind, but if you're taking it, take this as well. She jumped up with joy as if she had received love itself. Thank you so much. I could just die, I love you. Then she disappeared, leaving him stranded alone there. Cihoon sighed in relief upon receiving the notification. Establishing a link from the subject Lia Claude. The link level with the creator Lee Cihoon is now at level 1. He also said, that girl is still so childish. Standing in the crowded campus, Cihoon looked around and thought, so, today I finally get to meet one of the 3 mad dogs. All the epic battles between the mad dog and the light-devouring demon god in their youth. Seeing Erica following behind him made him think, but more importantly. Then he finally asked, what are you doing? She whispered menacingly, just following you. He asked, so now if I tell you to go somewhere else, will you go? She moved up to stand beside him. I will, because I can just watch you from a distance. Cihoon glanced back and sighed in relief. I figured you'd do that. Then he walked in. Come on, let's go inside. An item like frozen snow with an introduction line. Erica Eno's social contract link. Rarity, rare. Quality, low to medium. A type of artificial or containing refined mana. It helps regulate the chaos of internal mana when mixed with other minerals. Another magic stone appeared with a notification. Link. Lia Claude's complex explosive Massachusetts rarity. Rare. Quality. Supreme. A type of sharp, multicolored ore. It acts as an excellent amplifier, helping to unlock the full potential of mixed materials. At the vast stadium campus, Jang appeared cutely on the projection screen. A warm welcome to the new students of Babel Academy. Welcome to the famous landmark of the martial arts arena. I send my most sincere greetings to all of you in this ranking match. She posed and winked on the screen. I am the youngest professor of the martial arts department, who will be serving as the commentator today. My name is Jang Pang. In the spotlight, her voice continued to ring out. Well then, without further ado, let's introduce today's fighters. The tall figure of a woman appeared under the lights. First, let's look over here. The fourth-year top student of the AGF region, and also the future successor of the Meyer family, a place that specializes in training S-rank heroes. This person flipped her golden hair back. A perfect superhuman, who has continuously broken records and held the #1 position at the martial arts arena for the past 3 years. She is currently an active A-rank hero and our champion. This girl's pretty face was revealed. And also the Sword Saint, the one who finally succeeded in conquering the highest peak of the Tower of Heroes, Arya Meyer. Loud sounds rang out, and above them, Seol and Erika were standing with their arms crossed, looking down. Sister, take me with you. Sister Arya is shining so brightly, along with Jang's introduction, and the first player to dare challenge the champion today. The light shone down on a man with a long sword on his back. An intangible cultural heritage of Korea, the heir to the Warian Tangium spear technique, the third-year top student of the spearmanship department, and a strong contender for the 10th rank of the martial arts arena. Sehu looked down and thought, so we finally meet. This person stood there, revealing his power. Mad Dog. Jang also shouted his name. Seung Ha. Each sword strike, bursting with fire, stopped just before hitting the ground. Arya on the other side also skillfully controlled her sword. She launched a blow that sent him jumping backward. He gritted his teeth and strained. His hand gripped the wooden railing beside him tightly. Arya's eyes glinted menacingly. Then flames formed a swirling circle around her. It seemed to want to attack Seung Ha directly. This made Cihoon, standing above, think. Even considering his young age, he still hasn't reached the necessary standard. Could it be that he's not receiving support worthy of his title as the successor of the Warian Tangium spear? Seung Ha held his spear back in a ready stance, thinking, there are quite a few things that are bothering me, but the biggest obstacle is the equipment he's using. But he threw it straight away and prepared to charge. A long, sharp sword thrust just missed his neck. Seung Ha seemed bewildered by the sword tip at his throat. Then he calmed down. I have lost. Arya held her sword in front of her, cheerful. You've worked hard. The match officially ended. The final winner is Arya Meyer. The two of them stood on the same platform. Jang, holding a mic on the other side, continued her job. Next, we will proceed with the interview portion with both fighters. That was the plan, but student Seung Ha had to leave early due to an unforeseen reason. She covered her mouth and laughed. Having to face the 9th rank right after that would indeed be too much for me as well. Seung Ha quietly left as all the lights were focused on Arya. Perhaps I'll fill this empty time with a live Q&A session with myself. The audience above was extremely enthusiastic. We agree. Cihoon, up there, glanced over and thought, that guy looks really upset. He suddenly stood up, making Erika turn. Are you leaving without watching the whole match? He put his hands in his pockets and replied, yeah, I'm not really into that fighting style. As he walked away, he said, look at her. She seems impatient standing there, doesn't she? Erika turned, somewhat concerned, and thought, it's a relief to know you didn't come here to meet my brother. But why did he seem so angry? Suddenly, a voice spoke up beside her. An interesting freshman? Arya was already standing there, looking back. Her orange eyes looked back hopefully. Perhaps I found someone like that. Seung Ha was meditating in a park near the martial arts arena. Cihoon quietly approached, thinking, the current Seung Ha is still alive and quite well. Seung Ha was replaying the moment. He unleashed each flashy move. Even if his personality is a bit dog-like, he was a core member of the Suicide Squad, and also the last one to sacrifice his life to destroy the demon god of ruin. He stood behind him and thought, because he hasn't become too twisted yet, maybe this time I'll be able to acquire the Link Stone more easily. Meanwhile, he was frowning and bowing his head. You were just watching the sparring match, weren't you? Cihoon, with his hands in his pockets, replied, that's right. I watched a bit. His head tilted back slightly. The fact that you could find me here proves your skills aren't half bad. Seung Ha turned to look at him menacingly. It's you again. Why is the top student of the forging department here? He stood there, concerned, and thought, why is he so hostile? Then he spoke up. I came here hoping we could discuss something. Then he turned his head back to the front. Get out of my sight. Cihoon slowly walked closer. This will really benefit you, senior. It's just. But he had already squatted down and replied, maybe you still don't understand, so I'll only repeat this once. I absolutely despise weaklings. He stood before Seung Ha, especially those who can't do anything right, and those who mistakenly think their pathetic little tricks can compare to me. So, whatever you want to talk about, just go back. A sentence that left him stunned. You lowly smith. Remembering what Seung Ha had done in the past, go back to your workshop and forge equipment. Know your place and stay there. This made him not think too much about it. Compared to his Mad Dog era, he seems quite polite now. Seol was already casting a spell in his hand, thinking, looking at that attitude, I know for sure that words won't solve this. Seung Ha also glanced back. It seems you're determined not to stop. He approached him as he was casting the spell and said, I also have something to tell you. The next words made him freeze. The history of the Warian Tangium Spear will be ended by your own hands. And so, Seung Ha shot forward like a rocket. His hand clenched as he unleashed his power. The punch he threw at Cihoon was blocked by his power. A notification appeared at the same time he was sent flying back. The greedy iron link mark has officially been activated. He frowned in confusion and thought, did he just neutralize a mana-enhanced punch of mine? Sparks of fire swirled around Seung Ha as he focused his thoughts on him. He's truly worthy of being chosen as the department's top student. Perhaps, in the end, he is qualified to stand and talk with me. His attitude became more determined. However, the trajectory of the Tangium mana flow still remains. This is the true power of the Warian Tangium Spear. It will all end right here. The two of them flew straight towards each other. Cihoon seemed to create a thread barrier just to throw fire at Seung Ha. The smoke billowed, obscuring him. Then he slowly emerged from the smoke. In the distance, he seemed surprised. What? Why are the flames that should only react to my mana now held in his hands? Don't tell me. Terrifying things seemed to be approaching. He separated and stole it. Suddenly, a ball of fire flew straight past his neck. He looked ahead and thought, this bastard. Seung Ha, with his purple power, was in a martial stance, which made him think he seems about to go crazy and lose control. An image of a pink-haired man with a weapon on his shoulder in front of a city gate. The disaster at Weimin Gate probably erupted because of this hot-headed personality. A punch from the man was about to be thrown. It flew towards him with such precision that the victim thought, the effect from the greedy iron is about to disappear, and my stamina has reached its limit. As the fist was about to hit Cihoon's face, the duration of the greedy iron ran out. My body can't hold on any longer. They fell as if they had lost gravity from high above. At the same time, he caught Seung Ha's punch, which greatly surprised him. But no, it was Jake who had struggled to get in the way and block the punch, startling him. Riedmeier. He then spoke up. Are you acquainted with this top student of the forging department? He stammered in reply. Yes, we sort of know each other. After that, he also pulled his hand back. He walked to a quieter place. Leave here immediately. Zeke shouted shyly. Yes, sir. Then he turned to say to him, Cihoon, let's go now. He was glancing at him, his face pale with fear. Remember what I said. Don't say such strange things anymore. Let's get out of here quickly. On the other side, Seung Ha stood alone with his thoughts. A moment ago, I couldn't control my emotions and threw a punch. I almost tarnished the honor of the Warian Tangium Spear and brought disaster upon my master. His gaze fell downwards, on the street before Z. What were you thinking, going and picking a fight with that senior? If I hadn't stopped you in time, you might have really lost your life. Cihoon bowed his head and sighed in relief. Me? It wouldn't have been that easy. He, beside him, was concerned. What did you say? A notification appeared before his eyes. A link with the target Seung Ha has been successfully established. He spoke up. I was just making a threat to him earlier. But thoughts also appeared in his head. The next step is to extract the link stone. Thinking of Seung Ha's fierce fighting style. However, the person I once knew was precisely the mad dog Seung Ha. If he's still this weak now, the effect of the link stone might be altered. I need to figure out a way to increase the link level with Seung Ha. Then he looked over at Z and thought, still, this guy looks like he could be very useful. He also asked, is your hand injured at all? He beamed and pointed to the wound on his palm. It's nothing. My hands are naturally very tough. Cihoon, walking beside him, glanced over and thought, his hands are tough? How ridiculous. He turned and said, but more importantly, Z held out his hand in a gesture. What did you say about my sister at the arena? He was somewhat surprised. You mean Arya Meyer? He replied, yes. He then answered, it was nothing much. I just found her a bit arrogant. Z clutched his head in extreme fear. What? No wonder she kept pestering me with all sorts of questions about you. Cihoon stood there, thinking of Arya. She has definitely started to take an interest in you. Cihoon's face turned cold as he remembered the figure of the woman being discussed. My sister seems to have started paying attention to you. The sister mentioned was Arya, smiling. He exclaimed helplessly. In such a noisy crowd, she could still hear that? Her hearing is really sharp. Z tried hard to persuade him. Next time, please just say that my sister is an A-rank hero. Cihoon, with his hands in his pockets, spoke mockingly. Actually, if it's just simple interest, I'm more than willing to accept it. As he looked over at Z, who was frustrated to the point of tearing his hair out, he had a thought. Seung Ha's biggest concern is probably defeating Arya. If I attract her rival's attention, my influence will naturally increase. He put on a weary expression and let out a sigh. Don't take it so lightly. You don't understand, my sister is really. Before he could finish, Cihoon suddenly interjected with a blunt statement. A petty and scheming person, right? Z jumped in reflex, looking around. Well, maybe you shouldn't use such strong words. Suddenly, his face became somber. Cihoon fell silent upon hearing the question. But why do you have such a grudge against my sister? The girl in armor with golden hair held a powerful dark sword in her hand. Sword Saint Arya Meyer. She stood like an empress, facing the monsters directly. This was once a soulless and faint sword. Under the dark black moon, Arya spread her wings and raised that sword to the sky. One day, that sword saint suddenly vanished without a trace. And the one who appeared after that was the one who turned the achievements of a demon god into their own weapon. The light-devouring demon god. Cihoon, in the darkness, just gave a faint smile. One look at her face, and you can see trouble. After that, he just casually walked away, waving goodbye. I'm leaving. Z stood stunned behind, still not understanding what was happening. What just happened? He suddenly noticed the sound from his phone. On his phone screen, he received a message from Sister Arya Meyer. It seems you've made a very interesting friend. Tell me all about it later. After reading it, he jumped in fright. Does she mean that from now on, I have to be the bridge between them? Suddenly, his eyes froze and turned pale. Arya sent a message that seemed to carry a dark, hidden meaning. Your petty and scheming sister just asked you for a small favor. Z stood alone on the street, reading the message. Damn it. Scene changed to the next morning at a lecture hall in Babel Academy. Cihoon, sitting in class, put a hand on his shoulder, feeling a twinge. Did I overdo it a bit yesterday in my confrontation with him, Seung Ha? Han, sitting at the desk in front, moved his lips and said, the schedule for the exchange event will be set soon. Driving a tiny car, he burst into the classroom with a stick and shouted, everyone, quiet. He stepped in front of the class, stick in hand, and introduced himself in one go. My name is Rizdo. I will be in charge of your major classes for the next 2 weeks. My teaching content will revolve around attribute refinement. The students in the room saw him, and their faces all turned pale. They all had the same thought. That's the professor famous for being a lunatic. He was very calm and spoke seriously. Before we begin the lesson, I have an announcement. You must make good use of this opportunity and submit your homework to me by next Thursday. First is David. David, the person with that name jumped and answered, yes, sir. The tiny man sat comfortably on his car holding a piece of paper. And the last person on the list is Lee Seol. Hearing his name called, he stood up. Han, sitting in front, glanced down. I wonder how much money he'll get. The person sitting next to him also had a thought. I have a feeling the amount he receives will be at least 3 times more than my share. Rizdo suddenly announced clearly. As for your budget, Cihoon, it hasn't been officially announced yet. He was startled by this. What did you say, sir? He had intentionally let his hair fall to cover his eyes just because he was constantly criticized for his old hairstyle being too outdated and ugly. Rizdo was very calm and even raised his hand to stroke his white beard. Because the level of completion in the product you submitted was so high, far exceeding expectations. The school has decided to include it in the public auction for second-year students this Wednesday. He continued to explain the reason. Therefore, we will base your budget on the final bidding price. Please be patient for a little while longer. Cihoon stood there, frowning in thought. Is this a trick by Vice Principal Michael? Is he intentionally intervening to handle this separately? His mind was still mulling over this matter. But on second thought, if there was anything amiss, Professor Kim and Cihoon would have surely stepped in to stop it beforehand. He then spoke up in reply to him. I understand everything now, sir. Rizdo didn't look scary and even raised his hand to start the next lecture. The topic we will be studying today is surplus mana. We have an excellent student who has volunteered to assist me in this in-depth practical session. Please come in. That person was Seung Ha. He appeared and entered the classroom as Rizdo introduced him. Class, this is my temporary teaching assistant, Seung Ha, a third-year student majoring in spearmanship at AGF. A student sitting next to Cihoon exclaimed in surprise, why is that famous senior suddenly here? Even in class, everyone was as excited as if they had seen a beautiful girl. Seung Ha stood right next to the professor, and he continued with the lecture. That's enough for introductions. Let's grasp the basic concepts before moving on to practice. The circular samples radiating mana were mentioned. In weapon crafting, the form of surplus mana is mainly divided into two types. The first is the basic energy charging type. The second is the independent type, capable of generating its own mana or absorbing it from the surrounding atmosphere. Both have their pros and cons, but the independent type is much more difficult. Rizdo explained the theory seriously. The reason is that the method of creating a mana core has no fixed standard. It will change depending on the materials, techniques, and the creator's own mana source. He looked over at Seung Ha standing beside him and continued. Therefore, all of you will start with the energy charging type first. Assistant, please come up. His hand began to clench, building up and radiating a red mana. A red mana flow began to appear in the classroom. Fire-type mana is inherently explosive, making it difficult to use as surplus mana. He created two red mana streams that met in an arc. However, if that nature can be restrained, it will reveal excellent storage capabilities. Rizdo continued his explanation following the simulation created by Seung Ha. A prime example is the technique my assistant is demonstrating right now. That is the Warian Tangium Spear. Han was stunned watching this performance. He can control fire-type mana to that extent. The student next to him was equally amazed. Even controlling a single furnace is already too much for me. On the lecture podium, he held up a device. Since we are fortunate to have such a talented assistant, we must make good use of this opportunity. Please submit your assignments by next Thursday. On the whiteboard, his requirements were clearly written. Topic requirement: charging type fire surplus mana in the form of a fire wheel. He continued to remind them carefully. You can create whatever you like, as long as you stick to this theme. Rizdo sat on his small vehicle, looking excited as he spun his stick continuously. Now, let's move quickly to the refinement room. Oh right, don't forget to change your clothes. After he left, only Seung Ha remained. The other students suddenly stood up. This is the chance. Han and a few others harbored a thought in their minds. A golden opportunity to talk with senior Seung Ha. He, looking excited, reached out his hand to begin. Hello, senior. He looked very polite and was about to introduce himself. I'm Han. Before he could finish, a gloomy atmosphere radiated from around Seung Ha. Get lost. Han didn't dare to linger and left dejectedly. Yes, sir. The atmosphere of the class suddenly became somber. Seung Ha stood still in one place with a cold expression and his eyes closed. Those sharp eyes suddenly opened and looked in one direction. As Cihoon was nonchalantly preparing to leave the classroom, he spoke up. Lee Seol. He stopped and received a question. What do you know about me? The body of a muscular, robust man radiated a swirling red mana. I heard that the mastery of the Warian Tangium Spear is determined by the number of fire wheels. Lee Won Ryan, the current grandmaster of Weimin and an A-rank hero, has reached 8 wheels. Cihoon walked more slowly towards the door and gave him an answer. Since the 3 wheels you just created were so easy, if you do it correctly, you can definitely maintain 6 wheels simultaneously. Seung Ha quickly walked after him, calling out, Wait, so what? Cihoon suddenly made a sound that made him freeze in his tracks. You've reached the 7th wheel before, haven't you? He casually put his hands in his pockets, cornering him. But then one day, you won't be able to hold it anymore. Seung Ha, standing behind, trembled with anger as he watched his retreating back. How does he know that when I haven't even reported it to my master? His face turned cold. The words that came from his lips were also cold. You see, I have a bit of a talent for controlling fire, but when I watched the flame you wielded, I felt something was very strange. You can't fully detonate the remaining force. Or rather, you're letting it fly away chaotically. Seung Ha walked right up to him and asked directly, do you know what the cause is? His face went blank, his eyes wide open when he heard, I have a few guesses. But the next words that came from his mouth shattered his hopes. But I see no need to tell you. Seung Ha was bewildered, exclaiming, what? He stood behind, clenching his arm at his side. State your demands. Cihoon didn't hesitate and held up one index finger. First, you must pay a worthy price for all my advice and help. 2 fingers appeared on his hand. Second, when faced with difficult decisions, you must consult my opinion. As soon as Cihoon finished speaking, he walked away. Let me know your decision before we reach the refinement room. Seung Ha, from behind, without hesitation or further thought, immediately had an answer. I agree. His voice was serious as he stated the condition. If you can prove it. The time shifted to another place. Afternoon at the forge. In this area, a few people in identical uniforms were working. Seol was focused on folding something into the hot furnace. Is he crafting without even drawing a single sketch? Does he mean there's no need to test it first? The selected stones were placed in the kiln to bake. Fire system or in dark system or are mixed in a 7:3 ratio. 2 people came up to his diligently working back and started whispering. If he just blindly pours in all the mana, won't the attributes just vanish? Why is the department's top student doing something so crazy? His eyes didn't waver, only focused on his calculations. The temperature is increased until the mana attribute starts to leak out. Cihoon quickly took off his gloves. He directly put his bare hands into the fire. At the same time, he controls the mana flame to hold onto that attribute. That is the heat substitution technique. Rizdo broke into a cold sweat as he observed from the outside. He's performing heat substitution at this stage? So this is the reason Professor Kim In Cheon accepted the public auction bid. A smile formed at the corner of Cihoon's lips. In the eyes of a normal person, it might just seem like a normal heat substitution. But for him, Seung Ha, a completely different scene must be unfolding. At another time, Seung Ha was silently watching with wide eyes. Watch carefully. A black shoe touched the pedal, pressing the tip of the shoe down. A source of red fire mana, mixed with a bit of black, enveloped it. The fire system mana that is spreading out is brought inside, while the dark system mana that is digging deep inside is placed outside. This way, the balance between the 2 opposing mana flows is maintained, creating a perfect circle. Seung Ha stood with his arms crossed, seeming to be focused on observing but also feeling disappointed. Is that all? The pupils in Cihoon's eyes spun like fire wheels. My second mana attribute, which was forbidden because it was thought to hinder the Warian Tangium spear. Seung Ha still looked dazed, his eyes wide as he raised a hand to scratch his head. If I use it this way, I've dropped to the 5th wheel. Cihoon was startled when he heard that. What? Seung Ha performed 5 wheel rotations right before his eyes and explained, I succeeded in completing the black fire wheel, but I don't have enough strength to maintain 6. Seol still had to affirm. Even so, 5 black fire wheels are still stronger than 7 ordinary fire wheels. He looked a bit sad, squeezing his eyes shut and turning away. Weimin periodically sends instructors to test the skills of the successor disciples who are active outside. A giant black, dark circle was created for the fire mana to pass through. And if someone drops below the 6th wheel, they will be stripped of their successor position. Seol very nonchalantly offered the old solution. Then you just do it the old way for this time. Seung Ha, frustrated, created a small circle in his palm. That method won't work either. The black mana seemed to be powerfully released behind the fire wheel. My dark system mana is no longer controllable. Seol was also feeling a headache, squinting his eyes. When is that instructor coming? Seung Ha had an immediate answer for him. Tomorrow. He put his hand to his forehead, eyes half closed, and looked in another direction, thinking, He once said that losing the successor position means being expelled immediately, a method that can be applied in just one day. Suddenly, he placed his hand firmly on Seung Ha's shoulder. "Hey you." Cihoon looked excited and asked a question right then. "If your successor position is secured, is there anything you can't do?" He replied seriously and concisely, "I can." His eyes became serious again. "Good." Cihoon broke into a smile and took out a red and black stone from his hand. Link, Seung Ha's red resonance stone. High grade, best quality. An ore where fire and dark system mana coexist. The wavelength created by these two attributes will resonate with the user's internal power. First, we'll change your weapon. Seung Ha then led him to a place that looked like a high-class room. This is AGF's private training room. Only those ranked in the top 100 of the Martial Hall or the top 30 of their departments are allowed to use it. Cihoon walked in and could only let out a sigh. What a show-off. He touched the blue screen with one finger. You can change the interface here too, right? I'll make a few adjustments. The two of them stood still, watching the interface change before their eyes. Cihoon saw it, pointed, and teased Seung Ha. "Weiman Gate? Are you that homesick?" He explained very calmly. "My master sent it to me, so I only use it occasionally." He took out the black stone in his hand, looking at it excitedly, ready to work. "Then let's start making the training equipment." With just a gentle flick, the black stone lightly broke in two. Link, Seung Ha's red resonance stone. High grade, best quality. An ore where fire and dark system mana coexist. The wavelength created by these two attributes will resonate with the user's internal mana. A long, sharp weapon was just finished. Done. Seung Ha held the two spears in his hands, looking at them with some concern. Holding one spear is already awkward, and now I have to handle two. Cihoon, on the other hand, appeared very calm. This is more suitable for controlling two types of mana attributes. Cihoon stood opposite him, leaning on his staff, and pointed, instructing him. From now on, create a fire wheel with your left hand and release dark system mana with your right. He was a bit surprised after hearing that. Just release it? He affirmed. That's right. Seung Ha closed his eyes to calm himself. His gaze became sharp, holding the spears in front and behind. He spun around once. Seung Ha suddenly had to stop when he realized that mana was emitting from the spear. He didn't understand and held up the spear, staring at it. What was that just now? Cihoon calmly pointed at it and explained to him. It means you unintentionally let dark system mana overflow to your left hand. He felt the mana radiating from the spear. It's a natural phenomenon for multiple types of mana attributes to mix and escape, but in your case, it's so chaotic that they're suppressing each other. It's probably because you've only been suppressing your dark system mana all this time. Cihoon fastened a bracelet onto his wrist. So if you can manage to get used to both types of mana at the same time, reaching the sixth wheel will happen very quickly. Wear this while you practice, too. Seung Ha looked at the bracelet on his wrist and smiled. You're pretty good, aren't you? After that, he continuously practiced with the spear in all sorts of postures. 3 hours of training passed. Cihoon, observing from the outside, smiled with satisfaction at his progress. He's adapting quickly. Could it be because this training method was devised by his own future self? He felt it through every cell of his body, the mana source around him. Let's see just how talented your past self was. Breathing rhythm, muscle movement, shift in center of gravity. The mana wavelength circulated throughout his body and was released at the tip of the spear. Seung Ha noticed his gaze and asked curiously, "What are you staring at?" Cihoon rested his chin on his hands, looking very innocent. "What do you think? I'm just collecting data." He was taking a short break, wiping his cheek with his hand, when he suddenly froze. "I needed to craft the weapon you'll be using." Cihoon sat on the chair very naturally. "I'm making this one to submit for a class assignment, so don't get your hopes up." Seung Ha turned his face away to avoid him. Who would get their hopes up for a weapon made by a first-year student? Cihoon didn't sit still and glanced elsewhere. By the way, Seung Ha swung the two spears in his hand down hard from above. "Is there any reason why you absolutely must maintain your position as the successor?" He didn't turn his face and gave a short answer. "My master wants me to become the grandmaster." He stood there, letting the two spears hang loosely, his voice also indifferent. "So, as a disciple, I simply follow his wishes." The one who adopted the orphan Seung Ha and took care of him was the S-rank hero and also the first grandmaster of Wayman. On the picture hanging on the wall, the face and name of that person were clearly recorded. Jin. When he was young, he sat next to Seung Ha, patting his head and guiding him. Although he lost his strength after retiring due to injury, as a teacher and a father, he must still have absolute influence over this guy. Cihoon cupped his face in his hands, closed his eyes, and recalled the time the three of them met. Get along with each other, okay? Link level 3. Yes. Seung Ha's eyes narrowed, and he wanted to know, why are you helping me? His eyebrows furrowed, his eyelids shut tight as he thought. Another bleak, desolate place, shrouded from the forest to the city. The 6 great demon realms. Places that had been swallowed by the swamp of chaos were now teeming with demonic beasts. Cihoon sat with his legs dangling off the side of the chair, turning towards him. I plan to invade all of those demon realms. To do that, I need people to protect me. And I need materials to craft weapons to give to those people. He didn't hesitate to give a very ambitious, okay hand gesture. If you're the next grandmaster of Wayman, then your skills and financial situation must be quite good, right? Seeing that gesture, he was at a loss for words. So pragmatic. Cihoon became serious, his brow furrowing. Of course, we haven't known each other that long, so why would I do charity work for you? What? Seung Ha tapped the spear on his back shoulder. Are you saying that if I receive help, I have to pay a worthy price? He glared and pointed a spear straight at his sharp eyes. Help me become the grandmaster of Wayman. Then, I will follow you into the 6 great demon realms. A memory from before suddenly became familiar. From Seung Ha's own mouth back then. Forge me a weapon. Now, I will destroy the demon gods for you. A smile played on Cihoon's lips. From between his fingers, he produced a brand new black stone. You won't regret this, will you? Between the palms of his hands, the black stone continuously generated intense mana. Now, even if you don't like it, I'm going to make you the grandmaster. The red resonance stone link mark was activated. At the main training hall on the first floor of Flavium, Hyunwoon appeared formally with his attendants. It's been a while, young master. I am Kang Hyunwoon, a 7th circle instructor of Wayman. Seung Ha noticed the 3 people behind him. Who are those people? Hyunwoon gestured to introduce them. They are all disciples personally selected by the grandmaster. I am to help them broaden their horizons with a sparring match between myself and the young master. He even intentionally covered his mouth and giggled when he mentioned, because the young master is the most talented after the successor to be. Seung Ha, however, was not pleased and reminded him, Instructor Kang Hyunwoon. His eyes were cold, fixed on him. The next successor to the grandmaster position has not been decided yet. Be careful with your words. Hyunwoon still felt natural and smiled openly. My sincere apologies. Perhaps I was momentarily confused. Hyunwoon extended his arm, getting serious about the important matter. So, shall we begin the proficiency test now? Seung Ha refused directly without any courtesy. In a swirling vortex, the title appeared. I request to take the promotion test to the 7th circle. Hyunwoon's face showed contempt for him. A fool who only knows how to train dares to dream of the grandmaster's seat? He recalled the words of his backer and became arrogant. If Seung Ha wants to challenge the 7th circle, then crush him completely. No matter what happens, I will step in and handle it. Hyunwoon stood opposite him and explained at length. From the 7th circle onwards, the test content will include direct combat with an instructor. The young master should also consider the great elder Jin Hyun at the main sect. For you right now, that is still too soon, young master. Seung Ha stood there, resisting, not paying any attention. You talk too much. Seung Ha even dared to poke at his pride. Or are you afraid of being stripped of your instructor position? Hearing that, Hyunwoon went mad and immediately called for someone. Bring me my spear now. This 7th circle promotion will be conducted in the form of a dominion match. He was already holding the spear. This dominion match format is actually very simple. It's a pure contest of strength. Whichever side has the stronger Warian will win. The condition for promotion is that you must win or at least draw. Seung Ha looked on with sharp eyes, holding 2 swords in his hands as soon as the call was made. All right, let's begin. When he first saw his weapon, Hyunwoon confidently covered his mouth and sneered. Using dual short spears? How crude. Seung Ha didn't pay much attention. His sharp eyes and swinging spears charged forward with fierce fire mana. Hyunwoon was still standing there, feigning reproach. Have you forgotten the grandmaster's instruction to restrain your dark attribute mana? A chaotic flame like that will never be recognized as a Warian. Seung Ha smirked after creating spinning fire wheels around himself. Let's see what the result is when we actually clash. Hyunwoon seemed very confident, just swinging his spear in a single arc behind him. You will definitely regret this. He began to get serious, getting into a stance and spinning out fire wheels. The light from the fire attribute mixed with the dark attribute erupted, obscuring everyone's vision. His eyes suddenly bulged out. What? A black dragon form pierced through the fire wheels and gnawed at them. What the hell is going on? My Warian is being devoured. Is it being completely torn apart? His dark, bruised eyes were still in shock, and just a few seconds later, the spear in his hand broke into 3 pieces. Hyunwoon knelt on the ground before his shattered weapon. Seung Ha held the 2 spears in his hand arrogantly before his collapsed figure. You said it was crude? Cihoon, who was observing from behind, felt a bit regretful. What's next? What a waste of excellent materials. Seung Ha held the 2 spears and talked to him. When the promotion ceremony is held in the near future, I will be officially recognized as an instructor of Wayman and the rightful successor. Cihoon lowered his head, curious. How can you ascend to the position of grandmaster? Seung Ha, standing beside him, glanced over. 2 conditions must be met. First is to reach the 8th circle level, and second is to receive the consensus from the majority of the other instructors. Cihoon squatted down near the ground and picked up the fragments of the spear. Even if you reach the 8th circle level, can you make them agree? Seung Ha immediately affirmed with certainty. I can win their agreement through combat, so that's not a problem. However, it won't be a dominion match then, so things won't be as easy as today. Hearing that, he stood up and put his hands in his pockets again. Then it probably won't take too much time. Seung Ha, standing beside him, was seriously gripping the spear in his hand. You make it sound so easy. Cihoon also replied casually. I say that because I see it's entirely possible. Just look at today's results. He looked at him again with a challenging gaze. From now on, you should worry about how you're going to pay this price. Seung Ha closed his eyes, looking calm. A corner of his mouth turned up as if he could meet the demand. Just let me know what you need to settle this account. Whether it's cash or materials, I will provide everything within my ability. His voice dropped a tone, becoming more serious. Furthermore, I have another item I want to commission you to make. Cihoon was a bit surprised and glanced at him. A new order so soon? Suddenly, Seung Ha tightened his grip on the weapon in his hand. These things are not bad in quality, but I'm just borrowing one to submit for a class. A smile spread across his face as if he had already planned his intention. If he can create them in just a few short hours, I'm really curious to see what the next spear will be like. Seung Ha slammed his fist on Seol's shoulder. Make me a weapon that's even easier to use. Cihoon walked leisurely alongside him. Put that spear down. You almost stabbed us. What did you just say? The link index with the subject in Seung Ha has increased to level 2. When the bond level increases, the relationship between the 2 parties will become stronger. The current link with the target in Seung Ha is transactional. Each time a transaction with the subject is completed, a link stone will be formed. The crystallization speed of the link stone will increase during the transaction process. Current number of stones, 0. Scene change to a place crowded with spectators, with only a light shining on something on the stage. At the auction house, the host looked very excited, waving his hand to introduce. Thank you all for your patient waiting. The regular auction of the second-year cultivation department will now begin. Cihoon appeared here in a row of audience seats. I didn't think it would be this crowded on a normal day. Erica, sitting next to him, noticed his clothes. Did you change your style? He just crossed his arms and glanced around. Professor Cihoon reminded me that outward appearance is also important. And because of that, he thought more cautiously. It seems the title of department head is really something else. Cihoon appeared calmly under the light on the stage. It's hard to openly control someone who is the center of everyone's attention. Cihoon sat with his arms crossed, a sly smile on his face as he observed. I'm quite curious about Michael's plan to take over the refinement department. Today's theme is iron swords. There are a total of 36 products submitted, and we will have an additional special quality inspection process. As the host on stage spoke, a white cloth was brought out. This cloth is selgium, woven from the molten fur of the S-rank beast, the white tiger. It has the property of being soft yet as strong as metal, and it's also resistant to slashes. Another man came to assist, seriously using something to slash hard at the cloth. Thanks to that characteristic, a loud tearing sound echoed through the room. The host pointed to the phenomenon just demonstrated on the floor. As you can see, in order to increase damage potential, we can easily detect items that have had their durability reduced. In this auction, we will use selgium to eliminate such defective items. A sword was the first item handed over. And now, the first sword to be introduced is the Blue Horn by student Joseph. The whispers of the crowd began to rise. Oh, that looks interesting. It seems they've prepared everything very thoroughly. Erica looked sharply at Cihoon sitting beside her. Do you know why they're doing this? He analyzed a white tiger beast with blue pupils. Most people only know that the white tiger's body is very tough, but in reality, its abilities are a bit more complex. The fur, flesh, and bones all have completely different properties, especially its fur, which has the ability to replicate the sharpness of any metal weapon that touches it. So no matter how good the weapon is, it will gradually wear down the item's durability. Erica placed her hand on her chin and thought seriously for a moment. If that's the case, won't the white light longsword be at a disadvantage? Because swords that prioritize sharpness usually have very low durability. Cihoon rested his chin on his hand, his expression full of anticipation. That's exactly right. This is clearly a blatant trap aimed at me and Professor Kim and Cihoon. But if the sword breaks here, the guiding professor's reputation will also be severely affected. That only happens if it's not crafted carefully. On the stage, the auctioneer struck the gavel hard. The 25th sword has been sold for 4 million gold. The final sword was brought out, and the auctioneer began to introduce it. And now, finally, sword number 36. From the first-year top student of the refinement department, Lee Seol, the quality inspection for the white light longsword will now begin. As the sharp blade struck the white cloth hard, a powerful force erupted. The man gripped the hilt tightly, but the sword was suddenly flung from his control. Michael, who had just witnessed the scene, froze, his face turning pale. Just now, the white light longsword is still sharp, only a part of the tip is broken. What just happened?